Chapter 305. Seeing that Wu Tiandong and Lu Qingqing did not stand on Chu Xiu's side and instead listened to him and escaped with their men, Cheng Buhui's eyes revealed a trace of gratification. Although the two of them didn't choose to die with him, at least they didn't betray him, and that was enough. Cheng Buhui laughed heartily as he looked at Chu Xiu. Among my brothers, none of them will be your spy. It was only now that Cheng Buhui was certain that Chu Xiu had been lying to them from the beginning. If no one was a spy, then no one would betray him. He could accept death, but he could not accept the betrayal of his brothers. However, Cheng Buhui did not know that Chu Xiu had never intended to incite the other four to become his spy from the beginning. Even Wu Tiandong, who was the most immature among them, and Lu Qingqing, who no longer wanted to roam the pugilistic world, had been friends with Cheng Buhui and the others for many years. If Chu Xiu could so easily incite them to work for him, then the relationship between the five heroes of Jiangdong would be too fragile. What Chu Xiu wanted to do was to make them suspect each other. Even if there were no spies, this suspicion would turn into one. Looking at Cheng Buhui, Chu Xiu said expressionlessly, So you can die contentedly? Hero Cheng, I'm here to send you on your way today. As soon as he finished speaking, the heavenly demon dance in Chu Xiu's hand exploded with a dazzling blood-red light. At the same time, countless demonic and blood-red qi intertwined to form an extremely strange blade aura. The heavenly demon dance had its own demonic qi, and Chu Xiu's blood-refined divine power was also an extremely evil type of power. The combination of the two produced an extremely evil and terrifying power. Cheng Buhui's eyes revealed a hint of death, but he still raised the heavy sword in his hand. As long as he could hold on for another 15 minutes, Wu Tiandong and the others would have another 15 minutes to live. However, at this moment, the previously exhausted Lu Tong suddenly exploded with the last of his strength and leaped in front of Cheng Buhui. He shouted, "Big brother! Let's go!" Blood-colored demonic qi rained down, and Lu Tong, who could no longer lift his sword, was directly cut into two by Chu Xiu's saber. In an instant, blood splattered everywhere. For LV Tong, he had achieved what he wanted. He had killed Dong Xiangyi, the traitor, in his eyes, and he had also blocked Chu Xiu's saber for Cheng Buhui. In this life, they were not fated to be brothers again. They could only wait for their next life. Third brother. Cheng Buhui roared with bloodshot eyes and caught Lu Tong's corpse in a frenzy. After the five of them became sworn brothers, even if Cheng Buhui tried his best to be fair, there was still some distance between them. LV Tong was the first person he had saved, so naturally, she was the one he had spent the longest time with. After so many years, Cheng Buhui had come to the conclusion that no matter who betrayed him, LV Tong would never betray him. In the past, Cheng Buhui might have been willing to sacrifice himself and talk about faith and morality with Chu Xiu. However, now that he had seen LV Tong die in front of him, Cheng Buhui was truly regretful. He regretted everything he had persevered for, and he questioned whether everything he had persevered for was worth it. Could it be that before he could figure it out, Chu Xiu's eerie saber that carried the demonic qi of Avisanaraka had already fallen? Your brother risked his life to fight for this opportunity for you, but you didn't cherish it. What a waste. Chu Xiu's voice slowly faded, and the saber's momentum also fell with a loud bang. Cheng Buhui subconsciously raised the light mountain sword in his hand to block. However, although his light mountain sword was a sixth transformation precious weapon, it was no match for the heavenly demon dance, which had the foundation of a divine weapon. After a series of collisions, the light mountain sword was already badly damaged, and in the end, it was shattered by Chu Xiu's saber. The light mountain sword was Cheng Buhui's only hope after the destruction of the hegemon sword villa. Now that the light mountain sword was shattered by Chu Xiu's saber, Cheng Buhui felt that there was no meaning in living anymore. The protective aura around his body was easily shattered by Chu Xiu, and he was also easily killed by Chu Xiu's saber. Looking at Cheng Buhui's corpse on the ground, Chu Xiu paused for a moment, and he suddenly felt a little emotional in his heart. After roaming the Jianghu for so many years, the memories of his soul from his previous life and this life had already perfectly fused together, and it had also changed Chu Xiu's mentality a lot. Just like how others evaluated Chu Xiu, he was bold and decisive, and at the same time, greedy and self-interested. It could be said that for his own benefit, for his own path, Chu Xiu dared to do anything, by hook or by crook. On the other hand, Cheng Buhui was the exact opposite of Chu Xiu. He could be said to be a true chivalrous man, and he did not owe anyone anything when it came to morality. Even that time with Lu Qingqing, he did not take the initiative. What was good, and what was evil? In the eyes of most people, Cheng Buhui and the other Jiangdong 5 heroes were good, and he, Chu Xiu, was evil. However, in Chu Xiu's opinion, the living was the truth. As for the dead, it wasn't certain what it was. In the past, when the Kunlun devil cult was at its peak, even the self-proclaimed righteous disciples had to respectfully address the devil envoys of the Kunlun devil cult as Lord Sacred Envoy, when they saw them. In the end, after Dugu Weiwa went missing after his battle with Ning Xuanji, the Kunlun demon sect fell apart in just a short span of 10 years. After a few hundred years had passed, only the die-hard members of the phaseless demon sect would continue to address the Kunlun demon sect as the saint sect. The others would spit out a mouthful of saliva in disdain, scolding them as demons of the demon sect. None of them could recall how their ancestor had fawned over the Kunlun demon sect when he addressed them as the saint envoy. Therefore, in the pugilistic world, the so-called righteous and evil were not eternal. Only power was the only truth. Although his current body was the cult master of the devil cult in the original plot, the plot had changed greatly. Even Chu Xiu himself did not know whether Chu Xiu would walk the path of evil in the future. However, it did not matter anymore. In the past, Chu Xiu might have been conflicted about this, but now, Chu Xiu had thought it through. When he truly reached the peak, the so-called righteous and evil would only be a matter of a word from him. The death of Cheng Buhui, the righteous hero, made Chu Xiu's state of mind a lot clearer. Unfortunately, Wu Tiandong and Lu Qingqing still had to die. This was also the way Chu Xiu had always done things. Either he did nothing, or he went to the extreme. Even if Cheng Buhui really made Chu Xiu admire him, as long as he stood in his way, he would still die. Throwing a healing elixir into his mouth, Chu Xiu did not even carefully refine it before he chased after them. Among the Jiangdong 5, only Cheng Buhui, Dong Xiangyi, and Lu Tong could pose a real threat to Chu Xiu. Now that they were all dead, it was only a matter of time before Chu Xiu wanted to kill them. At this time, in the dense forest, Wu Tiandong and Lu Qingqing were fleeing with Qiu Dongmao, not daring to look back at all. Lu Qingqing's face was still filled with fear, while Wu Tiandong's face was livid and he did not say a word. What had happened in the past few days was like a nightmare. A few days ago, they were still valiant and respected by the people of pugilistic world. The Jiangdong 5 had quite a reputation in eastern Qi. But a few days later, they had already broken up with each other and killed each other. The ugly emotions in human nature had erupted in an instant, completely destroying the 5 of them. Dong Xiangyi was dead, and Lu Tong was almost dead as well. Although Wu Tiandong did not see the results, he knew that his elder brother was most likely in danger. At this time, Wu Tiandong was also regretting his narrow-mindedness and falling out with his elder brother and the others. He was also the instigator of this matter. At this time, Qiu Dongmao, who was being carried on Wu Tiandong's back, felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. He hurriedly said, "Young hero Wu, Miss Lu, don't worry. When you send me to Black Glazed City, I will definitely let His Highness take action and avenge Master Cheng and the others. Also, the 2 of you will definitely be rewarded by His Highness." Hearing this, Lu Qingqing was a little moved, but Wu Tiandong shouted angrily, "Shut up. It's all because of you. If it weren't for you, how would we, the Jiangdong 5, end up like this?" Hearing this, Qiu Dongmao shrank his neck and immediately did not dare to speak. At this time, Chu Xiu's voice came from behind Wu Tiandong and the others. TSK, it's rare for you to think things through now, but unfortunately, it's too late. This good-for-nothing has been lying to you all this time. Do you really think that you're protecting the only son of your benefactor? He's more like an enemy. Moreover, with his current value, will the Crown Prince avenge him? It's probably impossible for the Crown Prince to even see him. Qiu Dongmao is just a pawn in the Crown Prince's hands, but now that the game is over, what's the use of having him as a pawn? Therefore, this Qiu Dongmao is just a good-for-nothing. Seeing Chu Xiu's figure attack from behind, Wu Tiandong and the others immediately turned pale. Since Chu Xiu had already rushed over, there was no need to say what kind of ending Cheng Buhui would end up with. Thinking of this, Wu Tiandong's eyes revealed a look of grief. Previously, because of Lu Qingqing's matter, he did indeed have some resentment towards Cheng Buhui and the others. But now, they were all dead. Especially when he thought of his elder brother, Cheng Buhui, who was like a father to him and had always helped him when he first started out, was also dead. Wu Tiandong felt as if his heart was being pierced by needles. He was already somewhat regretful now. He regretted why he and the others had helped Qiu Dongmao, regretted why he had listened to Chu Xiu's instigation and fallen out with his elder brother and the others, regretted why he had escaped just now instead of dying together with Cheng Buhui. Putting down Qiu Dongmao, Wu Tiandong pulled out the 2 autumn moon blades from his waist. With an angry roar, the blades around him spiraled like a hurricane and slashed wildly at Chu Xiu. At this moment, he was actually fighting with his life against Chu Xiu like a madman. A strange look flashed across Chu Xiu's eyes. Have you thought it through now? Unfortunately, it's too late. The heavenly demon dance slashed down. Demonic qi surged and blood surged. With one slash, Wu Tiandong was sent flying while vomiting blood. With 2 slashes, the autumn moon blades in Wu Tiandong's hands were directly shattered. With 3 slashes, Avicii Hell's gate of death opened wide. With 3 consecutive slashes, Wu Tiandong's body flew out like a rag doll. His head rolled to the side and blood gushed out along the headless body. Seeing Chu Xiu's gaze, Lu Qingqing could no longer care about her grief. Her eyes were already filled with fear. Don't kill me. I promise you. I promise you that I will submit to the second prince. Lu Qingqing shook her head and shouted in horror. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "It's too late. Actually, I don't really like to kill women, so I gave you 2 chances, but you didn't cherish them. Also, I lied to you about one thing. Actually, I'm not familiar with the second prince." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu's eyes were like 2 deep pools. He unleashed the great art of extinguishing heaven and destroying earth and soul transfer to the extreme. Lu Qingqing, who was already on the verge of a mental breakdown, was instantly pulled into that boundless abyss. When she regained consciousness again, the demonic qi and blood condensed into blades had completely pierced through her body. Chapter 306. With the deaths of Wu Tiandong and Lu Qingqing, the 5 heroes of Jiangdong had completely become a legend. Apart from Chu Xiu, the only person who had caused the destruction of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong was Qiu Dongmao. If Chu Xiu were to evaluate Qiu Dongmao, he would only be able to say that he was a good-for-nothing. At most, he was a good-for-nothing who was clever. In all fairness, Qiu Xianxia had indeed been a little unfair to him. Just because of an oath, he had labeled Qiu Dongmao as an illegitimate son and thrown him to Shangyang. However, Qiu Dongmao had also failed to live up to expectations. Qiu Xianxia could not give him these things, so did he not want to fight for them himself? If Chu Xiu had been in Qiu Dongmao's position, he would have definitely exposed his identity first and then used Qiu Xianxia's reputation to develop his own power. As for whether he would fall out with Qiu Xianxia, how could he care so much at this moment? However, Qiu Dongmao had endured for more than 20 years without making a move. It was not until the Crown Prince sent someone to look for him that he realized that his opportunity had come. To be honest, Qiu Dongmao was indeed very tolerant. Even Qiu Xianxia had never suspected that this obedient illegitimate son of his would want to harm him and have such sinister thoughts. Unfortunately, Qiu Dongmao was wrong about one thing. He thought that this was an opportunity, but he failed to see that he, Qiu Dongmao, was actually just a small chess piece in this game. In this game of chess, the Crown Prince and the Second Prince were the players, while Qiu Dongmao, the 5 heroes of Jianghu, and the others were all chess pieces. Jiang Wenyuan was also a chess piece, but he thought that he was also a player. In the end, he failed and was thrown out of the chessboard. As for Chu Xiu, he was neither a chess piece nor a player. He was just an outsider, but he had relied on his own strength to fight his way into the chessboard and snatched some chess pieces and benefits. Qiu Dongmao looked terrified as he looked at Chu Xiu. He said in a low voice, "Official Chu, what do you want to ask? I will tell you everything I know. I only ask that you do not hand me over to the Second Prince. Please do not kill me." Chu Xiu patted Qiu Dongmao's shoulder and said calmly, "I told you, I'm not that close to the Second Prince, and I don't plan to hand you over to him. It's just that you're too smart. Even if I ask you, you won't tell me the truth. Tell me that I'd rather take it myself." Before Qiu Dongmao could react, Chu Xiu's eyes had already turned into a bottomless abyss, pulling Qiu Dongmao into it. Chu Xiu had already cultivated the great technique of extinguishing the skies and destroying the earth soul transfer to a profound degree. It might not be as overbearing as Xiahou clan's imperial spirit technique when facing martial artists of the same level, but when facing martial artists of Qiu Dongmao's level, the great technique of extinguishing the skies and destroying the earth soul transfer really had the power to transfer souls. At this time, Qiu Dongmao's body was constantly trembling. His spiritual power had been completely occupied by Chu Xiu's spiritual power, which was violently searching through his memory. There were many memory-related methods among the spiritual secret methods of Taoism and Buddhism. However, in Chu Xiu's eyes, these methods were somewhat similar to hypnosis, which made warriors involuntarily fall into it and take the initiative to say everything. Now, what Chu Xiu was doing was violently destroying Qiu Dongmao's spiritual power. Then, like raiding a house, he found everything he wanted in his spiritual power. The result was that Qiu Dongmao would completely become an idiot. The advantage was that this method would never go wrong. After a quarter of an hour, Chu Xiu had gotten what he wanted. At this time, Qiu Dongmao's face was dull, and he looked straight at Chu Xiu with listless eyes. His spiritual power had been completely destroyed by Chu Xiu. Now, he looked like an idiot. However, Chu Xiu did not choose to kill Qiu Dongmao. He was using the tiger's skin as a banner. Chu Xiu was now a member of the Guanzhong torture room. If he wanted to kill someone, there must be a reason. Even if the reason was very nonsensical, there must be one. Chu Xiu's reason had been very clear from the beginning. Qiu Dongmao was a survivor of Qiu Xianxia's case. Although the Eastern Qi Imperial Court had said that Qiu Xianxia's case had been closed, as a member of the Guanzhong torture room, he must find out the truth and arrest the criminal. As for the 5 heroes of Jianghu, they had shielded Qiu Dongmao, a criminal. Whether it was intentional or not, they deserved to die. Chu Xiu took Qiu Dongmao, who had become an idiot, all the way back to Qiu Xianxia's manor on the Pegasus Ranch in Ji State. At this time, outside Qiu Xianxia's manor, there were only a few dragon riders' imperial guards guarding the gate. Even Fang Zhenqi had left. After all, in their view, this matter had been closed. What was the point of staying here? Seeing that Chu Xiu had returned with Qiu Dongmao, the other dragon riders' imperial guards were all confused. What was going on? Chu Xiu sent Qiu Dongmao to the dragon riders' imperial guard and said, "Send this guy to Lord Fang. Tell him that he is a survivor of Qiu Xianxia's case." The poison of July begonia in Qiu Zhensheng's body was caused by him. He wanted to kill his brother so that he could inherit the Pegasus Ranch. The Dragon Rider's Imperial Guard was stunned. But isn't the case closed? Chu Xiu said lightly, who said that there can't be a murderer after the case is closed? Give this to Lord Fang. He will know what to do. As he spoke, Chu Xiu handed a piece of paper to the Dragon Rider's Imperial Guard. On it was written the process of the Crown Prince sending people to Eastern Qi to meet Qiu Dongmao. Although there was no direct evidence, this kind of thing did not need evidence. The second prince only needed to know what the Crown Prince was doing behind the scenes. Although this matter could not cause too much harm to the Crown Prince, it could still make the Crown Prince's reputation a little worse. Qiu Dongmao relied on him, but the plan failed. He could not protect Qiu Dongmao. This matter was mainly a blow to the Crown Prince's reputation among his own people. Chu Xiu believed that the second prince would know what to do. As for Chu Xiu, this matter had nothing to do with him. In the eyes of outsiders, Chu Xiu spent so much effort to capture Qiu Dongmao just to do something for the second prince. In other words, he had some kind of cooperation with the second prince. Naturally, the second prince would take the blame for him. The Dragon Rider Imperial Guard took the paper. He also knew that Chu Xiu had a relationship with their general Fang Zhenqi. Now, some people in the know were also spreading that Chu Xiu was actually on the second prince's side. Therefore, he did not dare to neglect Chu Xiu. He immediately found someone to send the news of Qiu Dongmao and Fang Zhenqi to Qiu Dongmao. Right, has Qiu Zhensheng's body been taken care of? Chu Xiu asked. The Dragon Rider Imperial Guard replied, not yet. So many things have happened in the court during this period of time. Qiu Zhensheng's death has been forgotten, so it is still preserved in the room. However, the court is choosing the next person in charge of the Pegasus farm. It is estimated that Qiu Zhensheng's body will only be completely buried after the choice is made. Chu Xiu nodded and said, that's fine. There are still some undetected clues on Qiu Zhensheng's body. I have to carefully look at it again. After returning to the Guanzhong torture room, I can report the details of this case to my superior. The Dragon Rider Imperial Guard did not suspect anything. The people in the Guanzhong torture room had seen the body countless times. Now, it was not a big deal for Chu Xiu to look at it again. Therefore, the Dragon Rider Imperial Guard directly let Chu Xiu in. He did not even follow him in to check. Chu Xiu walked into the room where the body was placed. He picked up Qiu Zhensheng's right hand, closed his fingers, and used a special clay used to forge weapon models to copy Qiu Zhensheng's entire right hand. In Qiu Dongmao's memory, Chu Xiu successfully found information about the place where Qiu Zhensheng hid his treasure. To be honest, the place where Qiu Zhensheng hid his things was quite tricky. Ordinary people would store their treasures and other things in their own homes. This was convenient for them to access, and the home was also the place with the strongest power, so it was safe enough. However, Qiu Zhensheng took a different approach. He did not hide his things in his home at all. Instead, he chose to hide them in a place near the Pegasus farm. The Pegasus farm was the largest farm in Eastern Qi. Almost 90% of Eastern Qi's warhorses were produced in the Pegasus farm. Therefore, the Pegasus farm's defense was much stricter and safer than Qiu Zhensheng's home. Moreover, as the owner of the Pegasus farm, Qiu Zhensheng was the only one who could enter and leave the farm at will. Hiding around the farm was much safer than hiding in his home. The key to open Qiu Zhensheng's treasure was his right hand. It was made by a master who was proficient in mechanisms that Qiu Zhensheng hired. It had to be exactly the same as his right hand to open it. If his body was destroyed after his death, no one would be able to open the treasure. After leaving Qiu Zhensheng's farm, Chu Xiu came to a small valley near the Pegasus farm. Based on the information he obtained from Qiu Dongmao's memory, he spent some effort to find the entrance. He used the fake hand that he had copied to open the door of the mechanism. Qiu Dongmao had never been to this place before. Qiu Xianxia had only told his illegitimate son where he hid his wealth just in case. The treasure vault was not big. It was only 6 feet in radius. After all, with Qiu Xianxia's strength, it was impossible for him to accumulate too much even if he was the owner of the Pegasus farm. Most of the things here were various cultivation resources such as elixirs and elixirs. There were also some strange metals used for refining weapons. There were even quite a number of gold, silver, and jewelry. It was hard to imagine that Qiu Xianxia, who had a simple personality, would collect these things. However, Chu Xiu did not even look at these things. Instead, he rummaged through a pile of cultivation methods and secret boxes. Finally, he found the thing that he had always wanted. It was a very ordinary cultivation method. It did not even have a title on the cover. It was written on an extremely flexible paper. The words were simple and mysterious. There were also diagrams describing the heaven, earth, and man, as well as the 5 elements and 8 trigrams. At first glance, one would feel dizzy. This seemingly ordinary cultivation method had a very famous name in the future. It was called the Heaven's Sun Gazing at Air. Chapter 307. Heavens Gazing at Air, Killing While Talking. Those words were the description of the heavens gazing at air by the people of the pugilistic world in the original plot. The technique was very mystical and did not even have a specific level. Some people said it was 8 transformations, while others said it was 9 transformations. However, most people still believed that the technique could not be measured by its level and should be classified as a mystical technique. The heavens gazing at air could allow one to look inside oneself and see through the opponent's opportunity, peeking at the powerful power of the heaven, earth, and man transformation. When one cultivated it to greater mastery, the heavens gazing at air could see through the opponent's attack trajectory and various loopholes as long as the true qi in one's body moved. At the same time, one would be able to figure out a way to break it in one's mind. It could even be said that if one fought against a martial artist who had cultivated the heavens gazing at air to greater mastery, the outcome would be determined before one even made a move. It was undoubtedly a terrifying thing. However, there was no perfect technique in this world. If the heavens gazing at air was truly unsolvable, it would not be a mystical technique, but a peerless technique or even a supreme technique. The loophole of the heavens gazing at air was actually very huge. It did not have any offensive power. That's right, such a powerful technique could not cultivate inner force or martial arts techniques, so its offensive power was basically 0. When 2 martial artists fought, even if one cultivated the heavens gazing at air to greater mastery, the other party's strength would completely crush one. Even if one's saber was full of loopholes, one would not be able to block it if one did not have enough strength, let alone those loopholes. Therefore, the strength of the heavens gazing at air would always be based on one's own strength. It could only play a supporting role, which was why the technique could only be considered a mystical technique, not a peerless technique or a supreme technique. However, the true power of the heavens gazing at air was undeniable. In the original plot, Qiu Xianxia had cultivated the heavens gazing at air and fought with a martial Dao master from the demonic path. He severely injured the master with a single move, which was enough to show the power of the heavens gazing at air. After all, Qiu Xianxia's strength was not considered strong before. He was born in the wilderness, and his basic technique and combat strength could only be considered mediocre. Even if he was not poisoned, Mr. Liu, who was also at unity of heaven and man, could easily kill him. In the end, after cultivating the heavens gazing at air and stepping into the martial Dao master realm, he only relied on the heavens gazing at air to defeat a stronger opponent, which was enough to explain everything. After putting the technique into his bag, Chu Xiu did not let go of the other things. In fact, Qiu Xianxia's net worth wasn't small. After all, he was the owner of the Pegasus farm. After getting these things, Chu Xiu directly crushed the inscription on Qiu Xianxia's right hand with his true qi, and then destroyed the mechanism of the secret treasure room. Chu Qi secret. After Qiu, and heaven, Chu Chu, Chu, He, Qi, He, and He, Chen, comma, Qi, and Qi. Qin, Qi. Sun. Chu, Qi. Qi, Chu Xiu frowned slightly after reading the entire Heavens Gazing at Air. Heavens Gazing at Air was so obscure that it was difficult to understand. It contained profound Daoist principles. If Chu Xiu had not cultivated Daoist methods, it would have been more difficult for him to read it. It makes sense. Qiu Zhencheng took 3 years to comprehend it. If Chu Xiu wanted to cultivate it to small success, it might take a long time. Now, it was a problem for Chu Xiu to even get started. After seeing countless experts, Chu Xiu also examined his own talent. In terms of cultivation, Chu Xiu's talent was only average. The first reason he could have such a cultivation level was because of the glazed golden silk goo, which had completely reborn Chu Xiu. After seeing countless experts, Chu Xiu examined his own talent. In terms of cultivation, Chu Xiu's talent was only average. The first reason why he could have such a cultivation level was because of the glazed golden silk goo, which had completely reborn Chu Xiu. As for the second reason, he relied on accumulating power through countless bloody battles and plundering a large number of cultivation resources to break through. Although Chu Xiu was a rogue cultivator, apart from the initial period, after Chu Xiu joined the Blue Dragon Society and the Guanzhong torture room, he did not lack cultivation resources at all. If he ran out of resources, he could just plunder them. He was no worse than the disciples of those big sections. What made Chu Xiu outstanding was actually his comprehension ability. It might have been related to the fusion of his two souls, but Chu Xiu's comprehension ability was definitely far beyond that of ordinary people. Like the fast and slow 9 words formula, Chu Xiu could cultivate it to the small success stage in a short period of time. If it was not because of his strength and fear of the technique's backlash, Chu Xiu would even dare to use the 9 words formula as one. But now, facing this Heavens Gazing at Air, Chu Xiu really could not figure out anything. He had not even stepped into the entry level. Just like that, he stayed in the inn for a few days. Chu Xiu seemed to have gained something, but at the same time, he seemed to have gained nothing. This feeling made him very depressed, and he still could not figure out the entry level. However, Chu Xiu did not intend to continue looking. He had left the Guanzhong torture room for a long time, and it was time for him to go back and report. When that time came, he could go back to the Guanzhong torture room and cultivate in seclusion. Even with Qiu Zhencheng's talent, he could cultivate it to the small success stage in 3 years. Now, Chu Xiu did not aim for the small success stage, but only the entry level. No matter what, his progress should be much faster than Qiu Zhencheng's. However, just as he walked out of the inn, some Eastern Qi warriors in the Ji State Prefecture were looking at Chu Xiu, pointing at him and whispering about something. In short, their attitudes were not very good. Chu Xiu vaguely heard the names of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong from their mouths. It seemed that the aftermath of this matter had spread out. His name in Eastern Qi seemed to be a little stinky. In fact, this was indeed the case. Just a few days after Chu Xiu went into seclusion, the news that the 5 heroes of Jiangdong were killed by Chu Xiu spread out. The second prince had already spread the news that Chu Xiu wanted Qiu Dongmao because he was the murderer who poisoned Qiu Zhencheng. It was he who asked Chu Xiu to go. In secret, the second prince spread the news that Qiu Dongmao was the crown prince's man. In the end, the crown prince could not even protect his own man. This was definitely a big blow to the crown prince's reputation. This was only an open and veiled struggle in the imperial court of Eastern Qi. The people in the Jianghu were concerned about the fact that Chu Xiu had killed the 5 heroes of Jiangdong. It was understandable that Chu Xiu had killed others in Eastern Qi. Whether it was the rogue cultivators that Yan Tingting brought here, Tong Kaitai, or Shenbai, they were not the representative figures of Eastern Qi, nor were they from the righteous path. Moreover, the 5 heroes of Jiangdong were recognized as heroes by the entire Eastern Qi. Although they were rogue cultivators, they were the standard heroes of the righteous path. Now that they had died in the hands of Chu Xiu, this naturally caused some righteous people in the martial arts world of Eastern Qi to criticize them. Although Chu Xiu claimed that it was the 5 heroes of Jiangdong who obstructed Chu Xiu from handling the case and shielded Qiu Dongmao, in the eyes of most people, this was just a one-sided statement from Chu Xiu. There was no evidence. Was he trying to fool a fool? In particular, the 5 heroes of Jiangdong had been chivalrous and helped the weak over the years. Many rogue cultivators and some small forces had been helped by the 5 heroes of Jiangdong. While the forces of the orthodox martial world loathed Chu Xiu, the large number of martial art cultivators did not have a good impression of Chu Xiu. Moreover, the cause of death of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong was quite puzzling. Under normal circumstances, the 5 heroes of Jiangdong were like brothers. Naturally, they should have joined forces to fight Chu Xiu. In any case, it was impossible for Chu Xiu to kill all 5 of them. In the end, when the others were cleaning up the bodies, they found that LV Tong had fought Dong Xiangyi to death first. After she was exhausted, she was killed by Chu Xiu, and Cheng Buhui had also died there. This situation left everyone dumbfounded. The 5 heroes of the River East actually had internal strife? This was simply impossible in the eyes of others. However, it was true. The bodies of Wu Tiandong and Lu Qingxing were found more than 10 miles away. They were also killed by Chu Xiu, but everyone found traces of them fleeing in panic. This meant that when Cheng Buhui and the others were fighting Chu Xiu, the 2 of them chose to drag out an ignoble existence and escape. This was also unacceptable. Previously, Cheng Buhui and Dong Xiangyi both wanted the 5 heroes of Jiangdong to become the 5 heroes of Eastern Qi. However, one of them did it for his own ideals, while the other did it for fame. In fact, the 5 heroes of Jiangdong were not far from this goal. If one of them could step into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm, they should change their name to the 5 heroes of Eastern Qi. Therefore, in the entire land of Eastern Qi, there were many people who knew these 5 people, knew them, and had received their favors. Everyone knew that the 5 heroes of Jiangdong were like brothers. The saying, "I didn't ask to be born on the same day of the same month and year, but I asked to die on the same day of the same month and year," was not a joke to them. However, in the hands of Chu Xiu, these 5 people either fought among themselves or fled. Only God knew what they had experienced and what Chu Xiu had done. This kind of result made those who knew the process shudder with fear. The most terrifying thing was not the great power, but the unknown. There were also people who went to the wind-sweeping tower to look for Chu Xiu's previous information. They found some of Chu Xiu's experiences when he was an assassin in the Blue Dragon Society. In the past, when Chu Xiu had just joined the Azure Dragon Association, he'd utilized a psychological strategy to annihilate a large clan like the Yu clan of the Northern Mountain by himself, and he'd caused them to kill each other madly before being annihilated. His methods were evil and ruthless, and it was simply outrageous. However, at that time, people could still guess what methods Chu Xiu had used. This time, however, they really could not figure it out. However, after this incident, almost everyone in the pugilistic world of Eastern Qi labeled Chu Xiu as an evil cultivator. This person's thoughts were deep, and his methods were so cruel that no one could fathom him. Fortunately, Chu Xiu was a member of the Guanzhong torture room. Although he was not on the righteous path, he was not on the diabolical path either. Otherwise, Chu Xiu would definitely be labeled as an evil cultivator and be hunted by the righteous path of martial arts. Chapter 308. On the way from the inn to the exit of the city, Chu Xiu received a lot of disdainful looks from people, but Chu Xiu didn't care about it. "I'd rather have tens of thousands of people gnash their teeth in hatred than have no one scold my name." The more people in this world who are afraid of you, the more people who scold you. By the time you reach the level of Dugu Weiwei in the past, there probably wouldn't be many people in this world who would dare to scold you. Just as all kinds of rumors emerged in the Jianghu of Eastern Qi, in the Nansang Xiahou clan, Xiahou Wujiang was lying beside a beautiful pond, surrounded by more than 10 beautiful maids fanning him with small fans, looking relaxed. But at this moment, a koi fish in the pond suddenly flew into the air, as if there was some invisible force pulling it. In the end, the koi fish exploded into a cloud of blood mist with a loud bang. At this time, Xiahou Wujiang opened his eyes and sat up from the reclining chair, but a layer of sweat seeped out of his forehead. A beautiful maid beside him immediately gently wiped Xiahou Wujiang's sweat with a towel, and then handed him a cup of elixir tea, saying softly, "Congratulations on advancing further in the spirit commanding art, young master." Xiahou Wujiang wasn't enjoying himself at this time, but cultivating the spirit-commanding art of their Xiahou clan. Although a disciple of a noble family like Xiahou Wujiang didn't lack all kinds of luxuries, he didn't dare to really neglect his cultivation, or else there would be countless people waiting to take over his position in the Xiahou clan. Xiahou Wujiang took a sip of tea and said, "It's still early. The key to the spirit-commanding art is to truly turn illusory into reality and condense the spirit. But I'm afraid I can only do this step when I reach the martial arts grandmaster level." The maid smiled and said, "Young master is extraordinarily talented. Others need to reach the martial arts grandmaster level, but young master can definitely do it as long as you reach the unity of heaven and man level." Xiahou Wujiang pinched the maid's smooth face and teased, "Chan, you really know how to talk. By the way, during the time I was in seclusion, how are Mo Tianlin and Luo Feiheng?" At this point, Xiahou Wujiang's eyes revealed a trace of haze. Previously, during the God Weapon Conference, he was actually defeated by Luo Feiheng and the other two. That was truly humiliating. Therefore, after the God Weapon Conference, he cultivated hard in the Nansang Xiahou clan, and at the same time, he used the power he had to find some trouble for the Luo clan and the Mo clan. He was not willing to just swallow this. Chan smiled and said, "Because Luo Feiheng entered the top 10 of the Longhu leaderboard, she was praised by many of the Luo family's disciples when she returned to the Luo family. However, some of the older generation of the Luo family's warriors thought that Luo Feiheng shouldn't have offended our Xiahou family, so they insisted on punishing her. But in the end, nothing came of it. Right now, Luo Feiheng was consolidating his cultivation in the Luo family. As for Mo Tianlin, he is the most outstanding disciple of this generation of the Mo family. The Mo family is also reluctant to punish him. Instead, they provided him with a lot of cultivation resources and let him cultivate in seclusion. They just want to reduce the number of times he goes out." Xiahou Wujiang said with a gloomy face, "Faced with the suppression of our Xiahou family, these two families have no reaction?" Chan smiled bitterly and said, "Young master, although the strength of the Mo family and the Luo family combined is not as good as our Xiahou family, they are not people we can bully at will. You used the Xiahou family's power to suppress the other two families. Although the patriarch did not object, he did not agree to use too much power. After all, we are all part of the 9 great families, and it is not good for the family to intervene too much in the fight between the younger generation." After seeing that the Mo family and the Luo family did not respond, several elders felt that this was purely a waste of power, so they went to find the patriarch and asked him to stop this behavior. Xiahou Wujiang's face darkened, and he snorted coldly, "This group of old farts." The Xiahou family did not belong to him alone. Although his father was the patriarch, the power of the Xiahou family's elders was not small. There was even an ancestor above the elders here. They had even more power, and replacing the patriarch was only a matter of a word. Xiahou Wujiang could be said to be extremely arrogant at this time. He actually publicly scolded those elders as old farts in the Xiahou family. If these words were to spread, even if Xiahou Wujiang was the patriarch's son and the number one person in the younger generation of the Xiahou family, he would still be punished. The other maids around him all lowered their heads, as if they did not hear anything. If today's matter were to spread, they could guarantee that none of them would survive. Among these maids, only Xiahou Wujiang's personal maid, Chan, who reported information to him, did not react. She comforted him, "Young master, please calm down. Even if Mo Tianlin cultivated for 100 years, he would still be no match for you. You don't have to care about this kind of small fry who is destined to be trampled under your feet. And that Luo Feiheng is the same. These years, the Luo family has been declining year by year. Among the younger generation of the Luo family, besides Luo Feiheng, there is not a single person who is worthy of respect. I'm afraid that the Luo family has long had the idea of marrying Luo Feiheng. Once the time is right, the Luo family will personally send Luo Feiheng to your bed." Hearing Chan Er's words, Xiahou Wujiang's expression became a little better. He asked, "What about the Jianghu? Did anything big happen after the God Weapon Conference?" Chan thought for a moment and said, "There is indeed one big thing. That is, Chu Xiu killed the 5 freaks of Jiangdong, which caused his reputation in Eastern Qi to instantly become a curse. Recently, his reputation has not been very good." Xiahou Wujiang frowned and said, "Chu Xiu killed the 5 freaks of Jiangdong? What the hell is going on? How did Chu Xiu get involved with the 5 freaks of Jiangdong? Didn't he go back to the Guanzhong torture room?" Since the end of the God Weapon Conference, Xiahou Wujiang had gone into seclusion. Not to mention that he did not know that Chu Xiu killed the 5 freaks of Jiangdong, he did not even know that Qiu Zhenqing had died. Chan cleared her throat and told Xiahou Wujiang in detail what had happened in Eastern Qi during this period of time. After listening to her, Xiahou Wujiang's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. So many things had happened in such a short period of time. It was really exciting. The information channels of the Xiahou clan were naturally incomparable to those of other individual cultivators, so the version that Xiahou Wujiang had heard was the most comprehensive. It included the struggle between the crown prince and the second prince, Jiang Wenyuan's role in it, and the matter of Chu Xiu killing the 5 freaks of Jiangdong in the end. It could be said to be very detailed. But then Xiahou Wujiang suddenly showed a hint of a sneer and said, "Just now you said that the martial artists of Eastern Qi now have a lot of resentment against Chu Xiu?" Chan nodded and said, "Yes, young master. The 5 freaks of Jiangdong are very famous in the land of Eastern Qi. Although they are not as famous as those martial arts masters, the 5 of them have been chivalrous and helped the weak over the years, so they have made a lot of connections. When the 5 freaks of Jiangdong were not dead, these connections did not show up. But now that they are dead, these people have jumped out to complain for them, thinking that Chu Xiu simply killed them for personal resentment." Xiahou Wujiang touched his chin and said, "Find me all the information about the 5 freaks of Jiangdong. Remember, I want it to be detailed." Chan asked doubtfully, "What are you going to do, young master?" Xiahou Wujiang sneered and said, "After being in seclusion for so long, it's time to move around. Since I can't do anything to Mo Tianlin and Luo Feiheng now, I will first attack this Chu Xiu to vent my anger." In the past, during the God Weapon Conference, the person that Xiahou Wujiang hated the most was not Mo Tianlin or Luo Feiheng, but Chu Xiu. If it were not for this Chu Xiu's interference, so many things would not have happened later. Moreover, this Chu Xiu was actually on good terms with Mo Tianlin now. If he did not deal with Chu Xiu, who would he deal with? Xiahou Wujiang was not a broad-minded person. He had always been vengeful. Even if the clansmen of the Xiahou clan provoked him, they would suffer Xiahou Wujiang's fierce revenge, let alone outsiders. However, Xiahou Wujiang did not hide his narrow-mindedness and vengeance at all. With his strength and identity, it was not him who should be worried, but the person he hated. Chan was shocked when she heard this, and she hurriedly said, young master, this time you used the power of the clan to deal with the Luo and Mo clans, which has already made the elders of the clan very unhappy. They will not allow you to provoke Chu Xiu again. After Chu Xiu returned to the Guanzhong torture room this time, he had already become the #1 person of the younger generation of the Guanzhong torture room, and was personally rewarded by the Iron Judge Guan Siyu. His status is different from before. If you touch Chu Xiu without reason, that is equivalent to forming a grudge with the Guanzhong torture room. This matter will not be so easily resolved. A great aristocratic clan of the level of the Nansang Xiahou clan was very cautious in every word and action. The Luo and Mo clans were both part of the 9 great aristocratic clans. Under the premise that there was no conflict of interest, the Xiahou clan did not want to easily make a move, let alone the Guanzhong torture room, which had no grudge with the Xiahou clan. Just because Xiahou Wujiang wanted to vent his anger, the Xiahou clan wanted to deal with Chu Xiu and form a grudge with the Guanzhong torture room. This was simply impossible. Did you think that you, Xiahou Wujiang, were the little celestial master Zhang Chengzhen? Moreover, even if it was Zhang Chengzhen who caused trouble like this, Mount Longhu would not allow it. The clan did not belong to you, Xiahou Wujiang, alone. Xiahou Wujiang caressed Chan Er's face and said, "Do I look like such an idiot? Don't worry, not only will I not use the power of the Xiahou clan, I won't even have to make a move myself. This time, Chu Xiu's murderous nature is too heavy. He killed people who shouldn't be killed and provoked public anger. Only a spark is needed to ignite it. I won't waste my energy to make a move. I only need to ignite it in the dark and hit him when he's down. If things go well, this Chu Xiu will not even be able to leave Eastern Qi. Even the Guanzhong torture room can only suffer a silent loss." Chan nodded in understanding. Anyway, it was fine as long as their young master was confident. Although she was the young master's personal maid, she did not dare to say too much. In less than 2 hours, Chan had found the detailed information of the 5 heroes of the River East for Xiahou Wujiang. After reading it, Xiahou Wujiang circled more than 10 names and said, "Go and invite all these people here for me. Remember, don't make it public. Just say that I want to see them." Chapter 309. The names that Xiahou Wujiang circled were either itinerant cultivators with a certain reputation in Eastern Qi, or the leaders of some small forces. They had one thing in common, and that was that they had all received favors from the Jiangdong 5 heroes. Moreover, they were quite indignant at the fact that the 5 heroes had been killed, and they cursed Chu Xiu the most fiercely. When they learned that Xiahou Wujiang was looking for them, these people were also dumbfounded. They didn't know why the most famous young hero of the Xiahou clan was looking for them. However, although they didn't know, in Eastern Qi, no one dared to disrespect the Xiahou clan. Therefore, after receiving Xiahou Wujiang's invitation, they immediately came to the Xiahou clan. In a reception room of the Xiahou clan, more than a dozen people sat facing each other, looking at each other. One of the warriors stood up and asked, "Old Master Lin, Hero Yao, you two are the most famous among us. Do you know why Xiahou Wujiang invited us here?" One of the 2 people asked was an old man in his 60s or 70s. At this time, he was Lin Nani, the master of the Lin clan in Jiangdong. Although his strength was not too high, only at the 5 Qis collecting in the origin stage, he was quite famous in Jiangdong. If some itinerant cultivators encountered any difficulties, they would visit the Lin clan. As long as Lin Nani could help them, he would never refuse. Moreover, when some young warriors of the younger generation encountered difficulties in cultivation and wanted to ask Lin Nani for help, he would also answer them in detail without hiding anything. Therefore, Lin Nani was also an elder with a good reputation in the River East. As for Hero Yao, he was a middle-aged man in his 40s. His name was Yao Leshan, and his nickname was Evil Cutter. He also had the strength of the 5 Qis collecting in the origin stage. This person was an itinerant cultivator and had traveled all over eastern Qi. He had done a lot of chivalrous deeds, but his reputation was not as great as the 5 heroes of Jiangdong. However, among these people, he should be the most famous. Lin Nani shook his head and said, I don't know the reason either. Yao Leshan said, since young Master Xiahou invited us here, there must be a reason. The dignified Xiahou clan, one of the 9 great families, wouldn't harm us out of boredom. If the Xiahou clan wanted to harm us, it would only take a word from them. As soon as Yao Leshan finished speaking, he heard Xiahou Wujiang say, Hero Yao is right. I didn't ask you to come here to harm you. Xiahou Wujiang pushed the door open and entered. The others immediately stood up and cupped their hands respectfully. Greetings, young Master Xiahou. Among the people present, there were martial artists who were stronger than Xiahou Wujiang at the 5 Qi's origin realm, and there were also Lin Nani, who was much older than Xiahou Wujiang. However, they were all very respectful and courteous to Xiahou Wujiang. As one of the 9 great clans, the influential Nansang Xiahou clan deserved their respect. Even if Xiahou Wujiang was only a member of the younger generation of the Xiahou clan, he still had the strength to make them respect him. Xiahou Wujiang waved his hand and said, Everyone, please take a seat. I believe everyone is also wondering why I have invited everyone here this time. In fact, I only need to mention a name, and everyone will know. Facing Chu Xiu's doubtful gaze, Xiahou Wujiang lightly spat out 2 words, Chu Xiu. As soon as they heard this name, everyone present suddenly exploded and started cursing. So it's this villain. Yao Leshan said with a face full of grief and indignation, Brother Cheng and I are very good friends. A year ago, we were drinking together and learning from each other. I didn't expect that we would be separated forever now. Lin Nani sighed and said, In the past, my grandson was naughty and mischievous. He accidentally fell into the hands of a villain, and I didn't dare to fight him head-on. It was the Jiangdong 5 heroes who killed the villain and saved my grandson. I wanted to thank them afterward, but the Jiangdong 5 heroes didn't even ask for a copper coin. Those 5 people are all good people. They are the pride of our Jiangdong prefecture, and also the righteous heroes of our Eastern Qi martial world. If they were given time, our Eastern Qi martial world might have also set up a memorial hall. It's a pity that they have all died in the hands of that villain, Chu Xiu, and have to bear the crime of shielding a murderer. Everyone present also began to denounce Chu Xiu with grief and indignation. They all had one thing in common, and that was, they were all good friends of the Jiangdong 5 heroes, or people who had received favors from them. Therefore, after the death of the Jiangdong 5 heroes, they were the fiercest, always cursing Chu Xiu in crowded places, crying out for the Jiangdong 5 heroes, and so on. The corner of Xiahou Wujiang's mouth revealed a hint of a smile as he said, Everyone, I have the same opinion as all of you. This Chu Xiu is cruel and greedy by nature. God knows why he killed the 5 heroes of the River East. However, this matter is definitely not as simple as them shielding Qiu Dongmao. Even an idiot wouldn't believe such a clumsy excuse. To be honest, I also have a grudge against Chu Xiu, and I also admire the character of the Jiangdong 5 heroes. Therefore, I have gathered all of you here today to discuss with you how to deal with this Chu Xiu. It's best to keep him in Eastern Qi forever. As soon as he said that, everyone present stopped talking. They looked at each other and were speechless. Xiahou Wujiang's intention was obvious. He wanted to kill Chu Xiu. In fact, they also had the same idea, but none of them did it. Hearing Lin Nani's words, Yao Leshan secretly cursed this old fox for speaking sinisterly. You, Lin Nani, have a family and business, but I, Yao Leshan, am alone, deserve to fight with Chu Xiu? But before Yao Leshan could say anything, Xiahou Wujiang waved his hand and said, Everyone, don't worry. I don't want you to fight with Chu Xiu just like this. I just want you to take the lead, and let all the warriors in Eastern Qi find trouble with Chu Xiu. Lin Nani frowned and said, "Young Master Xiahou, what do you mean?" Xiahou Wujiang said faintly, "Chu Xiu killed the Jiangdong 5 heroes this time. The crime he gave to the Jiangdong 5 heroes is that he shielded Qiu Dongmao, a criminal. Although this reason sounds nonsensical, it is still somewhat useful, so we have to ignore this point. This matter has nothing to do with Qiu Dongmao. Chu Xiu is from Guangzhong, and before he joined the Guangzhong torture room, he was from northern Yen. But now, this Chu Xiu is so arrogant in the land of Eastern Qi. Not only did he kill people at the God Weapon Conference last time, but this time, he even dared to kill the Jiangdong 5 heroes, the heroes of the righteous martial arts of Eastern Qi. Does this Chu Xiu not take Eastern Qi seriously? Does he think that there is no one in the martial arts of Eastern Qi who can defeat him?" As soon as these words came out, Lin Nani and the others all gasped. This evil trick of Xiahou Wujiang was really ruthless. He directly changed the concept of a seemingly ordinary fight in Jianghu into a provocation and humiliation of the warriors of Eastern Qi by a foreign warrior. If this matter really got out of hand, Chu Xiu would definitely be the enemy of all the warriors of Eastern Qi. Nowadays, most of the warriors in Jianghu still attached great importance to the distinction of regions. Most of the warriors would hang their origins in front of their names, such as the Jiangdong 5 heroes. In Eastern Qi, they represented Jiangdong Commandery. And the warriors who traveled throughout the Jianghu would also hang the country they were from above their heads. Previously, when Chu Xiu, an outsider, showed off his power in Eastern Qi, in fact, it had already made many people a little unhappy. Now, what Xiahou Wujiang was doing was to raise the level of the Jiangdong 5 heroes to the level of the Jiangdong 5 heroes of Eastern Qi. By killing them, Chu Xiu was provoking the martial arts of Eastern Qi. As the warriors of Eastern Qi, are you just going to stand by and watch? Who knows, some impulsive guys might jump out and make trouble for Chu Xiu. Chapter 310. For disciples from aristocratic families like Xiahou Wujiang, unless they were born with a powerful talent like Little Celestial Master Zhang Qingjin, they were destined to go through many intrigues. An aristocratic family, even if it was a big one like the Xiahou family, could only use all its resources to cultivate one disciple, instead of distributing resources to cultivate two. In terms of talent, Xiahou Wujiang was not bad, but he was also very skilled in such secret conspiracies. Those present were all old foxes in the Jianghu. It was not difficult for them to imagine that if they really did as Xiahou Wujiang said, it would not be easy for Chu Xiu to return to the Guangzhong torture room safely. Most of the warriors in the Jianghu were actually more rational, but there were too many people, and there were always some impulsive and hot-blooded guys who would jump out to make trouble for Chu Xiu. But at this time, Xiahou Wujiang immediately said, "Just inciting the emotions of the warriors of Eastern Qi is too random. You have seen Chu Xiu's strength. If the idiot who jumps out first is killed by him, it is very likely that the people behind will be afraid and dare not make any more moves. A snake can't be without a head. This kind of thing must have a leader, and this leader is you." Lin Nani and the others looked at each other. After talking for so long, they still needed to make a move. But in this way, wouldn't they be in danger? But before Lin Nani and the others could find an excuse to decline, Xiahou Wujiang said impatiently, "What are you afraid of? With so many people, are you still worried that you can't defeat Chu Xiu alone? This time, you are only playing a leading role. There are other warriors of Eastern Qi who will make a move together. With so many people, one spit from each of them can drown Chu Xiu. What are you afraid of? And this time, it is also good for you. The Jiangdong 5 heroes are dead, and now so many people in the Jianghu are filled with righteous indignation. As the first ones to stand out, your reputation will be yours. Think about the reputation of the 5 heroes of the River East. If you can kill Chu Xiu and avenge the 5 heroes of the River East, your reputation will be even greater than the 5 heroes of the River East. Everyone present looked at each other, feeling a little tempted. People in Jianghu only seek fame and fortune. Even Lin Nani and Yao Leshan, who had a good reputation, only cared about fame and fortune. Cheng Buhui could be chivalrous for the sake of fame and fortune, but their chivalry was built on fame and fortune. Asking them to be unafraid of death for the sake of so-called chivalry and spirit was something they would never do. However, Lin Nani was still a little hesitant. Young Master Xiahou, what if the Guanzhong torture room still implicates us because of this? After all, as the initiators, there's a high chance that we'll be noticed by the Guanzhong torture room. Xiahou Wujiang frowned. What are you afraid of? If the matter escalates to the level of the whole Eastern Qi, the Guanzhong torture room won't be able to do anything. Chu Xiu has gone too far and provoked public anger. Can the Guanzhong torture room teach all the warriors of Eastern Qi a lesson? Moreover, even if the Guanzhong torture room really does something to you, I'm the one who organized this matter. Can I just watch something happen to you? Or do you think that the Xiahou family is inferior to the Guanzhong torture room? Hearing Xiahou Wujiang's promise, Lin Nani and the others hurriedly said, we dare not, we dare not. Since we have young Master Xiahou's guarantee, we can rest assured. Xiahou Wujiang waved his hand and said, since that's the case, then you can go. Don't worry, if anything happens, the Xiahou family will support you. Watching Lin Nani and the others leave, Xiahou Wujiang's personal maid, Chan, came out with a teacup and asked, young master, if the Guanzhong torture room really does something to them, are you really going to use the power of the Xiahou family to help them? Xiahou Wujiang took a sip of tea lazily and said, I'm just fooling these idiots. The old guys in the family are so noisy. Since they won't let me use the power of the Xiahou family, how can I use it? If I could use the power of the Xiahou family, why would I waste so much time talking to these idiots? Anyway, there's no proof. If the Guanzhong torture room really comes to us, let them vent their anger on the behalf of the Guanzhong torture room. The most outstanding disciple of the younger generation died halfway. No matter what, we should let them vent their anger, right? Hearing Xiahou Wujiang's words, Chan couldn't help but sympathize with Lin Nani and the others. In the eyes of a force like the Xiahou family, Lin Nani and the others were really small and pitiful. They could only be used. If they could resist their greed and not agree to Xiahou Wujiang's request, then Xiahou Wujiang wouldn't be able to force them to kill. But once they agreed to Xiahou Wujiang's request, no matter whether Chu Xiu was dead or alive, they would be the unlucky ones. Just like the death of Qiu Zhenxing this time, except for Chu Xiu, who was an outsider, most of the people were pawns. Since they were pawns, naturally, they would be worthless after they were used up. Lin Nani and the others acted very quickly. After returning to their respective forces, or finding some rogue martial artists, these people began to deliberately control the rumors, making the matter of Chu Xiu killing the 5 heroes of Jiangdong become a provocation and disdain of the martial arts world of Eastern Qi by an outsider. Although the influence of these people wasn't great, they used the banner of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong to quickly spread this kind of news to the ears of all the martial artists who were concerned about the 5 heroes of Jiangdong. Indeed, it attracted the approval of many people. There were even many people who immediately expressed their desire to teach Chu Xiu a lesson, telling him that there were people in the land of Eastern Qi, and that he couldn't act recklessly and arrogantly. Chu Xiu hadn't noticed these things yet. But after a few days, he had just arrived at a restaurant in the Yen State Mansion. As soon as he pushed the door open and entered, he felt that almost all the martial artists around him were looking at him with hostility. This situation made Chu Xiu frown. Did he know this group of people? Could it be that they had all received favors from the 5 heroes of Jiangdong, or were they all good friends of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong? Chu Xiu could see from the eyes of this group of people that their hostility toward him was very deep. At the very least, it was much deeper than the martial artists in the Ji State Mansion. When they saw Chu Xiu take a seat, the martial artists in the restaurant whispered to each other for a while. Then, they all paid their bills and left in unison. The originally lively restaurant instantly became empty. Chu Xiu touched the hilt of his saber and pondered. Were the 5 heroes of Jiangdong really so famous in Eastern Qi? It seemed that he had underestimated their influence. He had attracted so many hostile gazes just because he had killed 5 of them. Reputation was something that sometimes didn't show up when you were alive, but when you were dead, many people would jump out to talk about this and that. He didn't know if they were sincere or not, or if they were just trying to make their presence known. However, Chu Xiu didn't care. He wasn't a member of Eastern Qi, so he didn't care about these so-called curses. Even if his reputation in Eastern Qi was really bad, he wouldn't care. Just as Chu Xiu's dishes were served and Chu Xiu was about to pick up his chopsticks, the door of the restaurant was suddenly pushed open. A martial artist in his 40s, dressed in white and holding a sword, walked in surrounded by people. The people beside him were the martial artists who had left earlier. The others beside the white-robed swordsman shouted, "Master Fang, this is Chu Xiu. This person killed the elites of our Eastern Qi's righteous Dao in Eastern Qi, and now he is eating and drinking so arrogantly here. He is simply too arrogant." Master Fang pushed the crowd aside, looked at Chu Xiu, and said coldly, "Chu Xiu. You committed such atrocities in Eastern Qi and killed the 5 heroes of Jiangdong, the elites of our Eastern Qi's righteous Dao. How dare you appear here in broad daylight? Do you really think that there is no one in Eastern Qi who can stop you? I was close friends with Dong Xiangyi, one of the 5 heroes of River East. In the end, Brother Dong died tragically at your hands. Today, I will seek justice for Brother Dong. Chu Xiu, if you don't give me an explanation today, don't even think about leaving the Yan province mansion." This Master Fang was Fang Weiming, the master of the Fang family village in the Yan prefecture. He had the strength of 5 Qis collecting in origin and was considered a prominent figure in the Yan prefecture. Legend had it that Fang Weiming's ancestors were experts of the martial Dao Grandmaster realm, and the Fang family village was also famous. Unfortunately, the later generations were not as good as the previous ones. In Fang Weiming's hands, his father died early in an accident, and Fang Weiming stepped into the 5 Qis collecting in origin with the help of the Fang family's heritage. He was already the strongest expert of this generation in the Fang family. As for his relationship with Dong Xiangyi, it was not as good as he claimed. They were just fair-weather friends. It was just that Fang Weiming unilaterally thought that he was close friends with Dong Xiangyi and bragged about his relationship with the 5 heroes of Jiangdong to others. This time, he came to cause trouble for Chu Xiu because he was indignant, but the other half was instigated by others. After all, in the eyes of the other martial artists in the Yan prefecture, didn't he always say that he was close friends with Dong Xiangyi, the second of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong? He was also close to the other 5 heroes of Jiangdong. When the incident happened, he was still scolding Chu Xiu. Now that Chu Xiu happened to pass by the Yan prefecture, it would not be right for him to back down. Therefore, Fang Weiming had no choice but to come. Anyway, there were many people in the Yan prefecture. Would Chu Xiu dare to oppose the public's anger in public? Chu Xiu didn't even raise his head as he ate. "You and Dong Xiangyi are close friends? Then you should go to hell to avenge him. Dong Xiangyi was not killed by me, but by LV Tong." Fang Weiming was stunned when he heard this. It seemed that according to the traces found by others, Dong Xiangyi was really killed by LV Tong. But then Fang Weiming pointed his sword at Chu Xiu and snorted. "The 5 heroes of Jiangdong are like brothers. How could they kill each other? You must have used some sinister tricks and evil methods to make them kill each other." Chu Xiu slowly swallowed a piece of beef and wiped his mouth. He suddenly raised his head and said, "Do you want an explanation from me?" Fang Weiming suddenly felt his heart skip a beat as if something bad had happened. But he still said coldly, "So what if I did?" "Well, I'll give you an explanation." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu's figure was like an arrow that had left the bow. In an instant, he had already appeared in front of Fang Weiming. Chapter 311. Chu Xiu was a temperamental person who would attack at the slightest disagreement. Those who had never dealt with him would never understand him. Swords and knives had no eyes, and fists and feet had no heart. In fact, most people in Jianghu would choose to fight with their mouths first. If they really fought, friction would turn into conflict, and conflict would turn into a battle to the death. At that time, it would not be easy to end it. Therefore, at this time, when Chu Xiu attacked so suddenly, no one present could react at all. After all, Fang Weiming was a warrior of the 5 Qis toward the origin realm. He was the first to react. He raised the long sword in his hand, and a sharp silver-white sword aura flashed out. However, before he could display his sword momentum, he was greeted by a round of dazzling sword aura shining with boundless demonic qi. With a loud bang, Fang Weiming's sword momentum was directly shattered, and his figure could not help but retreat. The other warriors around him also looked shocked and ran away in all directions. Not a single one of them made a move. Seeing this scene, Fang Weiming could not help but curse in his heart. As expected, none of these people could be relied on. However, it was too late for him to curse at this time because a dazzling demonic qi had already erupted from the heavenly demon dance in Chu Xiu's hand, mixed with a ferocious bloody light. The devil's blade of Avicii, the gates of hell opened. The 3 blades of Avicii fell one after another. The first blade completely shattered Fang Weiming's sword momentum, and the second blade directly shattered the long sword in Fang Weiming's hand. By the time the third strike landed, Fang Weiming was already extremely shocked. He formed seals with both hands and condensed Gang Qi in his hands. His vital energy and Gang Qi intertwined, turning into sword fingers in an attempt to block Chu Xiu's strike. However, it was completely shattered by the final strike of the 3 sabers of Avicii. Weak. Too weak. Fang Weiming could be said to be the weakest warrior of the 5 Qis toward the origin realm that Chu Xiu had encountered. Even warriors of the 3-flower realm like Shen Bai or Tong Kaitai were several times stronger than him. In any case, he was at the 5 Qis gathering in the origin stage, yet he couldn't even block a series of 3 strikes from Avicii Dao. He was simply trash to the extreme. However, just as Fang Weiming was about to be killed by Chu Xiu's blade, Chu Xiu suddenly withdrew his blade. His hand formed the great Vajra seal and directly slammed his palm into Fang Weiming's dantian, causing him to vomit blood. Then, he directly grabbed Fang Weiming's neck and said coldly, "Didn't you want an explanation? Is this explanation enough?" When the others saw Fang Weiming being carried by Chu Xiu like a dead dog, none of them dared to make a move. What one hears may be false, but seeing is believing. Chu Xiu's strength was indeed well-deserved. Fang Weiming was nothing in the whole of Eastern Qi, but in the Yanzhou prefecture, he was definitely an expert. In the end, he couldn't even withstand a few moves from Chu Xiu and was beaten to this state. If it weren't for Chu Xiu suddenly withdrawing his blade at the last moment, he would have been killed. Fang Weiming's mouth moved. He wanted to say something harsh, but he was now in Chu Xiu's hand. As long as Chu Xiu moved his hand slightly, his neck would be crushed. Fang Weiming didn't even dare to say anything harsh. Mockery flickered in Chu Xiu's eyes as he said, "You want to demand an explanation from me with your conduct? What a joke. I'm the Guanxi patrol under the command of the Guanzhong torture room. What right do you have to kill me? Even if I stood here and let you kill me, would you dare to do it?" Hearing this, Fang Weiming broke out in a cold sweat. In fact, half of the reason why he came here was because he was encouraged by others. How long did it take from the moment Chu Xiu entered the hotel to the moment he arrived? Fang Weiming didn't think that much at all. It wasn't until Chu Xiu said this that he realized what a stupid thing he had done. Before he came here, he didn't even think about whether he wanted to kill Chu Xiu or humiliate him. Just as Chu Xiu said, the Fang family was just a poor family. The glory of their ancestors was gone. If he killed Chu Xiu, he couldn't afford the revenge of the Guanzhong torture room. Chu Xiu said coldly, "Tell me, who ordered you to make trouble for me?" Chu Xiu didn't spare Fang Weiming's life because he suddenly became soft-hearted. Chu Xiu just felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, the 5 swordsmen of Jiangdong shouldn't have such a big influence. After killing them, he became the enemy of all the martial artists in Eastern Qi, and they even escalated to the extent of making trouble for him. Did he kill the 5 swordsmen of Jiangdong or the 5 swordsmen of Eastern Qi? Even in the original plot, Cheng Buhui and the others were stronger than they were now, but their influence wasn't so big. Therefore, he was a little confused. He was afraid that someone was secretly stirring up trouble and wanted to make a fuss. Fang Weiming said in a low voice, "No one ordered me to come here. It's just because you killed the 5 swordsmen of Jiangdong and acted so arrogantly in the land of Eastern Qi, challenging the dignity of the martial artists of Eastern Qi. So many of the martial artists of Eastern Qi are unhappy with you. I'm friends with Dong Xiangyi. This time, when you came to the Yan prefecture, the others came to inform me, so I had to take action. Otherwise, I'll be known as a coward." Chu Xiu frowned. From the looks of it, this Fang Weiming was just an impulsive and brainless idiot. In the beginning, he announced to the public that he was related to the 5 swordsmen of Jiangdong, but now he couldn't back down. However, at this moment, Chu Xiu suddenly thought of something. He suddenly asked, "I killed the 5 swordsmen of Jiangdong for a reason. At most, it was a normal Jianghu killing. When did I say that I was challenging the dignity of the martial artists of Eastern Qi? Anything that escalated to the level of territory was unreasonable." Chu Xiu was not really an idiot to do such an arrogant thing. Fang Weiming was stunned and said, "I don't know. But I don't know when it started, but someone said that killing the 5 swordsmen of Jiangdong was a provocation to the martial artists of Eastern Qi, and that they looked down on Eastern Qi." Upon hearing this, Chu Xiu was certain that someone was stirring up trouble in the dark. "Get lost." Chu Xiu stretched out his hand and directly threw Fang Weiming aside. He was a brainless idiot. It didn't matter whether he killed him or not. Fang Weiming also turned around and fled. Just now, he had been scared out of his wits by Chu Xiu's 3 consecutive slashes. He didn't even dare to say a word and went back to recuperate. Not in the mood to continue eating, Chu Xiu directly turned around and left. He had offended many people in Eastern Qi. Chu Xiu couldn't guess who had been secretly stirring up trouble this time. He had ruined the plans of the Crown Prince more than once, so it was possible that it was the Crown Prince. He had also extorted the Second Prince's annihilation fist of sky devastation, so the Second Prince's impression of him was probably not good. It was the same for the hidden sword villa. He ignored Cheng Tingfeng's objections and crippled Shen Bai, so Cheng Tingfeng was probably very angry with him. This was the disadvantage of offending many people. When something happened, he could not even guess who was behind this. This person's plan was actually very simple and effective. He raised the 5 swordsmen of Jiangdong to the level of the entire Eastern Qi, and it was nothing more than to provoke the emotions of the martial artists of Eastern Qi, although 99% of the martial artists would not fall for it. Most of the martial artists in the Jianghu were actually very rational. Chu Xiu killing the 5 swordsmen of Jiangdong was equivalent to provoking the martial artists of Eastern Qi. Over the years, many martial artists of Eastern Qi had died in the hands of outsiders, so why did no one say anything? It was simply because the reputation of the 5 swordsmen of Jiangdong was too good, and Chu Xiu's reputation was too bad. Coupled with the fact that someone was trying to provoke them, anyone with a discerning eye could see what was going on and would not get involved. However, there were many rational people in the Jianghu, but there were also many idiots who could not handle it. If there was one idiot out of 100 people who stood out to cause trouble for Chu Xiu, then there would be a second or even a third. Fang Weiming was such an idiot, so it was not hard to imagine that Chu Xiu would encounter more idiots like him in the future. After Chu Xiu left the Yanzhou mansion, he felt that someone was following him. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows. He had just seriously injured Fang Weiming, and yet there was still someone who did not know what was good for him and wanted to attack him. Just as Chu Xiu was about to turn around and drag the person out, the person appeared on his own initiative. It was a middle-aged man in the physical invulnerability stage. He cupped his hands at Chu Xiu and said, "I am Mo Wu, the servant of the third young master." "Nice to meet you, young master Chu." Chu Xiu was puzzled. "You are Mo Tianlin's man?" Mo Tianlin was ranked third among the younger generation of the Mo family, so people called him the third young master. The middle-aged man nodded and said, "It was the third young master who asked me to come. The third young master asked me to bring you a message. Someone is secretly stirring up trouble and trying to harm you. Moreover, the person's plan is very thorough. If you continue to move forward, it is likely that someone will take the lead and attack you. The third young master suggests that you either hide your whereabouts and act cautiously, or change your direction and head to Daliang City. That is the capital of Eastern Qi. Even if someone wants to harm you, they would not dare to cause trouble there. However, the third young master still suggests that you choose the latter. Right now, your reputation in Eastern Qi is somewhat bad. Even if you change your appearance and hide your whereabouts, it is still possible that you will be discovered. Right now, the third young master is cultivating hard in the Mo family, and the family head has also ordered the third young master to cultivate in seclusion. He is not allowed to come out until he has reached the three-flower realm, so he cannot help you for the time being." Chu Xiu nodded and said, "When you go back, please thank the third young master for his kindness. I will remember this favor." Although Mo Tianlin did not take the initiative to help, he immediately sent someone to inform Chu Xiu when he sensed that something was wrong. This kind of behavior was already very thoughtful. Moreover, this time, even if Mo Tianlin wanted to help, it would not be of much use. Chu Xiu himself was only in the physical invulnerability realm, so he could not stop a few people. If he were to use the Mo family's power, not to mention that Mo Tianlin was only the most outstanding disciple of the younger generation of the Mo family, even if he was the family head of the Mo family, he could not act so recklessly. After all, the Mo family was not a one-man family. After telling Chu Xiu everything that needed to be said, the warrior from the Mo family also cupped his hands and said, "In that case, I will take my leave. Young Master Chu, be careful on your way." Chapter 312. Mo Tianlin's reminder made Chu Xiu pay more attention to this matter. People always followed blindly. If idiots like Fang Weiming came knocking on his door, Chu Xiu would only need to kill a few of them, and no one would dare to cause trouble for him anymore. However, if someone took the lead and wanted to deal with him, Chu Xiu would probably have to face a big scene. Mo Tianlin gave Chu Xiu two suggestions, but Chu Xiu did not plan to choose either. This was Eastern Qi, a vast land with abundant resources. There were plains everywhere, and barren mountains and dense forests were scarce. Even if Chu Xiu changed his appearance and hid his tracks, it was inevitable that he would be found. And if he were to go to Great Liang City at this time, it would be troublesome if the Guanzhong torture hall didn't return after a long time. Moreover, Chu Xiu didn't know who it was that wanted to deal with him this time. If this person was the crown prince or the second prince, wouldn't Chu Xiu be walking into a trap? Daliang City was the territory of these two. Even if Chu Xiu was from the Guanzhong torture room, he would not be able to fight against the princes of Eastern Qi in the capital city of Eastern Qi. Therefore, in a short time, Chu Xiu had already made a decision, and that was to directly kill his way back to the Guanzhong torture room. Chu Xiu was not being arrogant, but he had a certain degree of confidence and confidence. Chu Xiu's attitude towards the enemy was also different at different times. When it was time to be cautious, when it was time to be overbearing, and when it was time to be crazy, Chu Xiu did not mind being crazy for once. The strength of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong was clear for all to see. Those who were willing to stand up for him would not be strong, and their strength would only be lower than the 5 heroes of Jiangdong, not stronger. Moreover, since there was a leader, the other party must also know who instigated this matter. Chu Xiu had been schemed against once, so he had to know who the person who schemed against him was. Revenge was never too late. Now that he knew who this person was, Chu Xiu would definitely return the favor when he had the chance. 3 days later, Lin Nani, Yao Leshan, and a dozen other warriors were gathered in Heong Prefecture, the only place to go to Guangzhong. According to Xiahou Wujiang's instructions, they had stirred up the emotions of the warriors of Eastern Qi in Jianghu. Now that it was almost done, they were ready to rob and kill Chu Xiu here. At this time, in the largest restaurant in Heong Prefecture, thousands of martial artists had gathered, clamoring to avenge the 5 heroes of River East and teach Chu Xiu a lesson. Of course, most of these people were just here to watch the show. The ones who would actually make a move were probably less than 1/10 of them. After all, there were still more rational people in the Jianghu. Impulsive idiots who disregarded everything when their blood was boiling were still in the minority. But it didn't matter. 1/10 of them were still hundreds of people, and this number was already amazing enough. Chu Xiu was not a martial arts master who could fight against an army of 10,000. Even if the strength of these people was much weaker than Chu Xiu, it was still enough to make Chu Xiu suffer. Standing on the top floor of the restaurant, Lin Nani looked at the warriors below and said with a frown, "They are all a motley crew. There are only a few of them who are powerful." This time, since Lin Nani and others had already decided to attack Chu Xiu, they naturally hoped to succeed in one battle. But at present, they felt that the strength of their side was still not strong enough. Yao Leshan said, "Be content. Those who have received the kindness of the 5 heroes of River East in the past must be weaker than them. Almost no one has surpassed the cultivation of the 5 heroes of River East in just a few years. But fortunately, we have enough people, and a spit from each of us can drown Chu Xiu, not to mention that among these people, the cultivation of the innate realm is the weakest." Lin Nani shook his head and said, "It's still a little insecure. Why don't we add something else?" Yao Leshan narrowed his eyes and said, "What do you think, old Master Lin? Tell me." The Lin family village of Jiangdong had a good reputation in Jiangdong Prefecture. Lin Nani was highly praised in Jianghu, but only people like Yao Leshan knew that this old man was a cruel and merciless master when he was young. For the sake of the Lin family village's rise in Jianghu, he had killed many opponents. In his old age, he began to study Buddhism. He was kind to others and helped the younger generation, as if he wanted to wash away his sins. Lin Nani said in a low voice, "With a great reward, there will be brave men. I'm afraid that they will be scared after Chu Xiu killed a few of their people. So we must add some benefits. Why don't we take out all our belongings? Whoever kills Chu Xiu, these things will belong to them. But we can't take out these things for nothing. Can the Xiahou family compensate us? Miss Chan, what do you think?" Lin Nani looked to the corner and saw a beautiful woman standing there. She was Xiahou Wujiang's personal maid, Chan. Xiahou Wujiang was watched by the family and was not allowed to cause trouble, so he sent Chan, to watch the battle. Chan, smiled and said, "It's nothing. Old Master Lin can do whatever he wants. It's just some cultivation resources. The Xiahou family can take out. However much you take out, the Xiahou family will compensate you twice as much. I can agree to such a small matter on behalf of my young master." Lin Nani and Yao Leshan immediately praised the Xiahou family for being generous and so on. But they didn't know that Chan was also sneering in her heart. After this matter, it's uncertain whether these families will still be around. It's not so easy to take the things of the Xiahou family. Feeling that almost everyone had arrived, Lin Nani led them downstairs. When the people in the restaurant saw Lin Nani and the others coming downstairs, they all cupped their hands and greeted them, calling them Old Master Lin. Lin Nani returned the greeting and said, "Everyone, I won't say much about the reason why you can gather here this time. The 5 heroes of Jiangdong are the heroes of the righteous path of Eastern Qi, and they are even more chivalrous. Who here hasn't received the kindness of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong? But Chu Xiu, an outsider, is so arrogant in the land of Eastern Qi. He killed the 5 heroes of Jiangdong just like that. Does he think that there's no one in Eastern Qi who can do such a thing?" As soon as these words came out, the people present were immediately filled with righteous indignation and loudly scolded Chu Xiu. Yao Leshan, who was at the side, pressed his hand down and said, "Everyone, please be quiet and listen to me. The martial arts of Eastern Qi has been insulted like this. How can we just let it go like this? This is public indignation. I'm a good friend of Brother Cheng Buji, one of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong. Now that Brother Cheng died tragically in the hands of that murderer, I can't calm down. This is a personal grudge. Now that the public indignation and personal grudge have combined, I, Yao Leshan, and Chu Xiu are irreconcilable enemies. I'm willing to offer all my wealth as a reward. If anyone can kill Chu Xiu, to comfort the souls of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong in heaven, all my savings will belong to him." As he said this, Yao Leshan threw out a bag on his back, which was filled with all kinds of elixirs and other cultivation resources. As a rogue cultivator, these were all Yao Leshan's wealth. Lin Nani and the others also made promises that they would be willing to take as many rewards after killing Chu Xiu, but they didn't offer them out on the spot like what Yao Leshan had done. However, the mere mention of it was enough to move the hearts of the people present. After all, most of the people present were rogue cultivators and martial artists from small forces. The value of the things that Lin Nani and the others had offered was simply beyond their expectations. He attacked because his blood was boiling. That blood came quickly, but it left quickly as well. However, if there was a certain amount of profit involved, then many people would probably flock to it, and their blood would cool down a little later. At this moment, a middle-aged martial artist in the 3-flower realm approached Lin Nani and the others and said in a low voice, "Everyone, if you want to fight, can you not do it in my River Sun Prefecture? You want to take revenge on Chu Xiu, but the Azure Tiger Gang is innocent." This middle-aged man was the leader of the Azure Tiger Gang, a local gang in River Sun Prefecture. At this moment, he was very helpless. "You guys have received the favor of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong and gathered here to avenge him, but what does this have to do with the Azure Tiger Gang? They had nothing to do with the 5 heroes of Jiangdong. Moreover, these gangs had done a lot of dirty things in the dark. If they met the 5 heroes of Jiangdong, not only would they not make friends with them, but they would also hide from them, afraid that they would be killed by these 5 stubborn guys. To put it in a dark way, the Azure Tiger Gang was even a little glad that the 5 heroes of Jiangdong were dead. If this group of people were to fight in River Sun Prefecture, if Chu Xiu was not dead, or if Chu Xiu was dead, would the Guanzhong torture room come looking for trouble with the local gang? This was something the Azure Tiger Gang was not sure about. Lin Nani snorted coldly and said, "Right now, Chu Xiu has brutally killed the righteous heroes of the Eastern Qi martial world and challenged the dignity of the Eastern Qi martial world. It's fine if the Azure Tiger Gang doesn't help, but now you want to stop us? Is the Azure Tiger Gang not a force of the Eastern Qi martial world?" As soon as he said this, all the martial artists present looked at the leader of the Azure Tiger Gang. He immediately broke out in a cold sweat and did not dare to say another word. This group of people had gone crazy. The leader of the Azure Tiger Gang retreated to the side and thought fiercely in his heart. These people should be happy when Chu Xiu taught them a lesson. They were so bored that they had to make trouble. The 5 heroes of Jiangdong were not your parents. Even if your parents were killed, you would not be so enthusiastic. If this matter really got out of hand, the Azure Tiger gang would have to consider changing places to make a living. Anyway, they could not stay in River Sun Prefecture anymore. At this moment, a martial artist came in and said loudly, "Everyone, the news of Chu Xiu has come. He is coming to River Sun Prefecture." Previously in Yanzhou Prefecture, Fang Weiming, the head of the Fang family, is a good friend of Dong Xiangyi, one of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong. He was going to find Chu Xiu and ask for an explanation. However, before he could finish speaking, Chu Xiu turned on him and seriously injured him. He was almost crippled. Hearing this, Lin Nani immediately said with righteous indignation, "Everyone has seen it. This Chu Xiu is really cruel and arrogant. Even Fang Weiming has been killed by him. So now, if we want to find Chu Xiu and ask for justice, and if we want to clear the name of the martial arts world of Eastern Qi, we have to unite as one. Only then can we subdue Chu Xiu." Seeing that everyone's emotions had been provoked to the extreme, Lin Nani, Yao Leshan, and the others looked at each other with a hint of pride in their eyes. If they succeeded, their reputation would surpass that of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong. The person behind you dared to plot against me, why don't he dare to show himself? Lin Nani snorted coldly and said, "Who is behind us? I've received the kindness of the 5 heroes of the River East in the past, and this time, I'm here to seek justice for the 5 of them. Everyone here today is here because of the righteousness in their hearts. No one is instructing them, and no one can instruct them." Chu Xiu said lightly, "Seek justice? Oh, tell me, how do you want to seek justice?" Lin Nani said in a low voice, "It's very simple. Destroy your own martial arts, kneel before the tomb of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong for 3 years, and wash away your sins, and we will spare your life. The 5 heroes of Jiangdong do not like to kill, and I will not say anything about blood for blood. If it were someone else, you would not even have a chance to live. Crippling one's martial arts was no different from death, let alone making Chu Xiu, an outstanding talent on the Longhu list, kneel in front of his grave for 3 years. This was simply a humiliation. Chu Xiu would definitely not agree to it. Since he did not agree, then they had a reason to make a move. In the eyes of others, they had already given Chu Xiu the chance, and it was Chu Xiu who did not know what was good for him. He had no one to blame but himself. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "Boring, really boring. If you want to kill me, then kill me. Don't you think it's tiring to come up with so many high-sounding reasons?" Raising his head, Chu Xiu's eyes flashed with a thick blood-red and demonic aura, as well as a trace of intense madness. "If you want to kill me to change your reputation, then come. Since you are all crying out for the 5 heroes of Jiangdong, then fine, I will send you all to accompany them in death." Lin Nani waved his hand and said coldly, "Stubborn fools. Don't hold back, let's attack together." When facing a ferocious person like Chu Xiu who had a notorious reputation, going up against him one-on-one was simply courting death. Only by joining forces and condensing formidable strength would they be able to annihilate him completely. Chu Xiu had been able to be so arrogant when he had fought against 100 people alone at the Mirror Lake. It was entirely because his opponents were a motley crew without a leader to command them. As a result, the strongest few among them had been killed by Chu Xiu. The others had been afraid and had directly fallen apart. This time, Lin Nani and the others had everything set up. It was like an inescapable net, and Chu Xiu would definitely not be able to escape. As soon as Lin Nani's voice fell, dozens of martial artists around Chu Xiu, led by the few of them, attacked together. In an instant, the saber aura and sword aura exploded. The power was so dazzling that it was impossible to see what they looked like. Although there were hundreds of people participating in the attack, those below the physical invulnerability stage were basically at the back. Only those above the physical invulnerability stage were qualified to attack. The most important thing was that the encirclement was only so big. At most, dozens of people attacked together. If there were more people, it would be easy to hurt their own people. But it didn't matter. Anyway, they had a lot of people. If the people at the front couldn't beat them, then they would change to the people at the back. Each group was led by a martial artist of the 5 Qis collecting in the origin stage. Their plan was tight and interlocking. According to their expectations, Chu Xiu couldn't even last 3 rounds. This time, the danger that Chu Xiu would face was 100 times more difficult than the one on the Mirror Lake. Deep in the midst of countless saber aura and sword aura, Chu Xiu had completely emptied his mind. There was only one word in his mind: kill. After obtaining the Oblivion killing punch from the second prince, Chu Xiu had actually been using his free time to observe and practice it. However, he didn't officially start to use it. Even when he was killing the 5 heroes of Jiangdong, Chu Xiu didn't use it because it wasn't the right time. But now, in this scene, with the surrounding killing intent condensing, it was the best time to practice the Oblivion killing punch. This martial art was strange because it was useless to practice it in seclusion. It had to be practiced in the midst of killing. Moreover, the Oblivion killing punch was not just a punching technique. To be precise, it was a way to use killing intent. Entering the Oblivion killing realm, one would abandon all emotions in the world and only have the word kill. It was a realm where killing and fighting were displayed to the extreme. In this state, one's killing potential could be displayed to the peak during a battle, and one's perception would be enhanced to the extreme. It was simply like a killing machine. Of course, the side effects were not ordinary. After entering the Oblivion killing realm, one mistake could cause one to be unable to withdraw. One's mind would be completely eroded by the killing intent. One would either turn into an idiot or become a bloodthirsty madman due to the killing intent's backlash. Therefore, the second prince didn't practice this martial art after obtaining it, nor did he pass it down on a large scale. Only some of his subordinates who came from the military would have the ability to resist the killing intent's backlash after experiencing countless slaughters. Only then would they be qualified to be taught the Oblivion killing punch. But now, Chu Xiu had taken the initiative to enter the Oblivion killing realm. This was an adventure, but also a kind of cultivation. Countless dazzling astral blade qi and sword qi fell. Chu Xiu held the Dugu seal in his hand. In an instant, the astral qi around his body condensed into a barrier, immovable like a mountain. The Dugu seal, which could be called the ultimate defense, was on the verge of collapse under the bombardment of the astral blade qi and sword qi. But in the end, it didn't shatter. Just as the other martial artists were about to step forward, a black and red interweaving saber light slashed out. The Avicii demonic saber, Death's Gate wide open. The last move of the 3 cuts of Avicii was the saber of judgment with a trace of divinity. When the saber fell, it fell forever. The martial artists who bore the brunt of the attack didn't even have time to react. They only had the strength of the physical invulnerability realm. When the saber fell, their bodies were instantly cut in half by the astral blade qi. Strangely, there was no blood flowing out of the wound. How dare you! 2 martial artists in the 3-flower realm attacked from behind Chu Xiu. These 2 seemed to be from the same sect. The sword momentum in their hands was exactly the same. When the 2 swords joined forces, their power doubled. Chu Xiu withdrew his saber and formed a seal. He actually used one hand to block the Great Vajrawill seal. At the same time, 2 powerful Great Vajrawill seals fell, directly blasting the 2 people back step by step. The long swords in their hands were also shattered. At this moment, a dazzling saber light fell. It bloomed with supreme light, suppressing the world and punishing evil. Yao Leshan's evil decapitator had already attacked. Among the martial artists present, there weren't many who could really pressure Chu Xiu. For example, the two sword cultivators in the three-flower realm were actually very weak. They were at the bottom of the three-flower realm. Not to mention the geniuses on the Longhu list, they were much weaker than Wu Tiandong of the 5 heroes of Jiangdong. When facing Chu Xiu, they could only sneak attack from behind. If they fought him head-on, it was very likely that they would be killed by Chu Xiu in one move. Martial artists like Yao Leshan, who was in the 5 Qis gathering realm, had the strength to exchange a few blows with Chu Xiu. Yao Leshan wasn't weak either. He was also somewhat famous in the land of Eastern Qi. His evil decapitator was said to have originated from the Great Light Evil Decapitator of the Great Light Temple. When Yao Leshan was young, he once treated a severely injured old monk. After the old monk recovered, he taught Yao Leshan a saber technique, which was the Great Light Evil Decapitator of the Great Light Temple. However, Yao Leshan was still young at that time, so he didn't remember the saber technique completely. As a result, the saber technique was somewhat incomplete. Moreover, after he officially roamed the Jianghu, he also learned some of the taboos of martial arts. He didn't want to be too high-profile, lest the Great Light Temple came after him. Therefore, he changed the Great Light Evil Decapitator to the Evil Decapitator. Although Yao Leshan's Evil Decapitator was incomplete, the slash still had the power to slay evil, which posed a great threat to Chu Xiu. Chapter 314. The Evil Decapitator slayed evil and destroyed demons. The supreme power of light on the blade had a great restraining effect on Chu Xiu's demonic qi. It was actually able to tear apart the demonic qi around Chu Xiu's body. However, at that moment, Chu Xiu turned around and formed a fist seal with his hand. Within the seal, a supreme brilliance bloomed. It was even more dazzling than the Evil Decapitator. The perfect precious vase seal fulfilled the wishes of all living beings and bloomed with supreme light. There was a loud bang. Amidst the dazzling brilliance, Yao Leshan's eyes revealed a look of horror. The powerful attack made him unable to stand steadily, and he hurriedly retreated. However, the two people behind Chu Xiu felt that their opportunity had come. Their eyes suddenly lit up. The long swords in their hands had been shattered by Chu Xiu's great UnparalleledSwordWill seal. However, at this moment, they both formed sword fingers and attacked Chu Xiu. However, at this time, Chu Xiu, who had already stepped into the state of selflessness, was extremely sensitive, especially to killing intent. The sword fingers of these two people had just blasted on Chu Xiu's shield of vigor. Before they could completely shatter Chu Xiu's shield of vigor, they were greeted by two great UnparalleledSwordWill seals that shone with supreme golden light. With a loud bang, 2 clouds of blood exploded. Chu Xiu didn't care about the sword fingers of these two people at all. He let them hit his body. At the same time that the shield of vigor around his body shattered, the 2 great UnparalleledSwordWill seals directly smashed the heads of the 2 three-flower realm warriors. The headless corpses fell to the ground. There was a moment of silence in the field. They knew that Chu Xiu was very strong, but right now, Chu Xiu's strength still made their hearts tremble. They had only exchanged a few moves, and several people had already died. Among them were 2 three-flower realm warriors. This kind of strength was already terrifying. Seeing this, Yao Leshan immediately shouted, "Attack together. Don't give Chu Xiu a chance to breathe. He's already injured." After taking on the sword fingers of 2 three-flower realm warriors, the sword qi entering his body did indeed make Chu Xiu look slightly pale. However, the strength of these two people was a little too weak. After the sword qi entered his body, it only took an instant for the power of the glazed golden silk goo to completely eliminate it. He was injured. What a joke! Under Yao Leshan's instigation, more than a dozen warriors charged toward Chu Xiu. However, before they could do anything, Chu Xiu's figure directly stared at Yao Leshan. The power of the internal binding seal burst out, and his figure rushed toward Yao Leshan like an arrow leaving the bow. Seeing Chu Xiu's action, Yao Leshan could not help but feel. The might of the perfect Aquarius seal had left a deep impression on him. Chu Xiu's strength was simply too terrifying. His explosive power was even stronger than a 5-Chi's origin realm warrior like him. However, he did not dare to hide because he was also one of the initiators of this matter. If he hid, not only would the morale of his people plummet, even if they managed to kill Chu Xiu in the end, he would not be able to get any fame. He might even be called a coward by the warriors of Eastern Qi. Therefore, Yao Leshan gritted his teeth and condensed his Gang Qi into one. The 5-Qi in his body circulated endlessly. In an instant, his saber body bloomed with boundless light. When the saber slashed down, it was as if the Buddhist sect's Vajra was holding the Buddhist commandment blade, slaying evil and subduing demons. Although the saber momentum was shining with boundless evil Qi, in fact, there was no killing intent in the saber intent. The boundless infernal devil Qi in Chu Xiu's hands fused with his blood-refined divine wind, and it also fused with the boundless killing intent brought about by the selfless killing realm. Amidst the surging demonic Qi, when Chu Xiu's saber landed, it actually gave off the sound of ghosts and gods roaring. It was exceptionally horrifying. The collision of light and darkness erupted into an endless storm. It was said that since ancient times, evil would never prevail over good, but now, Chu Xiu's demonic flames were monstrous and unparalleled. The light was surrounded by darkness, and in the boundless demonic Qi, the light was completely extinguished. Yao Leshan's figure could not withstand this powerful force. His hands were trembling, and a thin crack appeared on the long saber. In an instant, the crack grew larger and larger, and finally, with a loud bang, it shattered. Yao Leshan's saber was indeed slightly inferior. It was only at the 4th transformation level, and it was made by imitating the Buddhist commandment blade of the Great Light Temple. After all, he was a rogue cultivator, and he did not have much accumulation, so he was at a disadvantage in terms of weapons. At the moment when the weapon was shattered by Chu Xiu, Yao Leshan's figure was directly blasted away, and blood gushed out uncontrollably. More than 10 warriors at the back saw this scene and were instantly shocked. They exploded with all their strength, wanting to rescue him. However, Chu Xiu did not chase after them. Instead, he directly turned around and formed the Wisdom Fist seal with his hand. Within a radius of several dozen feet, everything was useless. The majestic Gang Qi confined the space. Under the Wisdom Fist seal's Gang Qi, the weaker the opponent was, the greater the suppression. Among the people who attacked, the strongest was only in the 3-flower realm. At that moment, all their movements became sluggish. As Chu Xiu's saber slashed down, heads flew, demonic Qi drifted, and blood spilled. The scene was extremely bloody and evil. As the black and red saber slashed down, only 2 warriors in the 3-flower realm could still stand. The rest were all decapitated. The more than 10 headless corpses on the ground made the whole scene extremely evil. Even the whole long street was dyed red with blood. At this moment, large droplets of rain fell from the sky and smashed onto the ground. Fresh blood mixed with the rain droplets and flowed like a small river, emitting an evil sense of beauty. The entire area was silent, and only Chu Xiu's slight panting could be heard, as well as the pitter-patter of the raindrops. Above the restaurant, Chan Er's hand holding the cheese trembled, and half a bowl of cheese fell to the ground. Looking at Chu Xiu below, Chan Er's eyes flashed with horror. She was Xiahou Wujiang's personal maid, and could even be said to be Xiahou Wujiang's confidant. Chan was not a simple person either. She even had the cultivation of the inner aura realm. At her age, she was even more outstanding than some disciples from large sections. At this moment, she could naturally see how terrifying Chu Xiu was. Xiahou Wujiang had told her about the God Weapon Conference. To his own people, Xiahou Wujiang would naturally not deliberately belittle Chu Xiu and elevate himself. But the strength that Chu Xiu displayed now was more than 10 times stronger than he was in the God Weapon Conference back then. Only the heavens knew how Chu Xiu had managed to improve so much in such a short period of time. This kind of speed was simply frightening. In Xiahou Wujiang's heart, Chu Xiu was not his opponent. He was just someone who had offended him before. The reason why Xiahou Wujiang had set up this trap was also very simple. It was to vent his anger. But in Chan Er's eyes, this Chu Xiu was definitely a great enemy of the young master. As long as Chu Xiu did not die this time, he would definitely be a great threat to the young master. At this moment, the killing intent around Chu Xiu's body had condensed into a substance. An invisible sharp killing intent lingered around his body. Even the raindrops near Chu Xiu's body were cut and torn into mist by his killing intent. There was no demonic qi in Chu Xiu's eyes. There was only the color of blood without any emotion. At this moment, Chu Xiu did not seem like a person. Instead, he seemed like a peerless murderous weapon with monstrous killing intent. Chu Xiu smiled at the crowd. Just when everyone present thought that Chu Xiu would say something, Chu Xiu's figure suddenly rushed toward Yao Leshan. This caused the expression of Yao Leshan, who was still vomiting blood, to suddenly change dramatically. His eyes revealed a look of horror. Lin Nani hurriedly shouted, "Go! Everyone, go together!" Although Lin Nani was shouting, the warriors around him were all dawdling. Not a single one of them took the initiative to attack. Seeing this scene, Lin Nani's heart suddenly sank. They had miscalculated. In fact, their plan was not wrong. Even if the warriors in groups were to waste time, they could still exhaust Chu Xiu to death. Not to mention that Chu Xiu was only at the Three-Flower realm. Even if he was at the Unity of Heaven and Man realm, it would be difficult for him to survive in this situation. After all, human strength was limited, unless it was a martial arts grandmaster who had condensed the true martial Dan and could borrow the power of heaven and earth. As long as the true martial Dan was there, they could continuously refine the power of heaven and earth to provide inner breath. Only such an existence could fight against an army of 10,000 with the strength of one person without fear of consumption. Lin Nani and the others had miscalculated Chu Xiu's strength. It was a kind of strength that was beyond their imagination. The first group of people was almost instantly killed by Chu Xiu. That kind of terrifying scene was like Azura hell, completely destroying the state of mind of the remaining warriors. Looking at the corpses on the ground, everyone present had a feeling that if they rushed up now, they would probably end up as miserable as the corpses on the ground. In order to beat someone, one had to first beat their guts. Chu Xiu's series of despairing killings had already killed 90% of the warriors present. The warriors who did not participate in the siege of Chu Xiu and only stood at the back to boost their momentum wiped their cold sweat when they saw this scene. If they rashly made a move, they would probably end up lying on the ground and becoming corpses. However, at the moment, these people were afraid and did not dare to make a move. Lin Nani and the others had to make a move. They were the leaders. If they were afraid and did not make a move, then this siege of Chu Xiu would really be a failure. If they won, they could gain fame and receive Xiahou Wujiang's reward. If they lost, however, their reputation would be lost, and they would even offend Xiahou Wujiang. This was a very bad deal. Therefore, in this battle, they could only win and not lose. Although Lin Nani was old, he still had the strength to fight. The long sword in his hand rippled with an ice-blue sword light. With a deep chill, it slashed straight at Chu Xiu. Its power was not small either. There was also a warrior in their group who had mastered the 5 qis collecting in the Origin realm. He held a long spear in his hand and took a step forward, thrusting his spear forward. In an instant, the long spear pierced through the air with the power of lightning. It was not weak. With 2 warriors at the 5 qis unification realm making a move to intercept, even Chu Xiu could not ignore it. Yao Leshan's figure also quickly retreated, wanting to hide behind Lin Nani and the spear-wielding warrior. However, at this moment, all the killing intent on Chu Xiu's body froze in this instant. He did not retreat, but instead advanced. That fist fell, forgetting himself and forgetting the enemy, only his killing intent remained. Chapter 3:15. Chu Xiu had yet to truly display the might of the oblivion-killing fist. It should be said that he had yet to cultivate this martial skill to the entry level. This was because this martial skill could only be tempered in the midst of killing intent. During the battle just now, Chu Xiu had already entered the oblivion-killing realm. All his spirit was completely immersed in this boundless killing intent, maintaining a delicate balance between madness and rationality. At this moment, Chu Xiu had completely poured the killing intent condensed during the battle into his fist. All the stellar energy around his body seemed to have turned into countless sharp blades under the killing intent, slashing through the air and tearing everything apart. It was clearly a punch, but Chu Xiu had blasted out a sense of desperation like that of a magnificent army. Under the fist condensed from the soaring killing intent, Lin Nani's sword astral sword was completely shattered. His body could not withstand this power, and he hurriedly retreated. The spear-wielding martial artist wanted to resist, but his strength was inferior to Yao Leshan's. Under Chu Xiu's punch, the spear in his hand bloomed with the power of thunder, but the result was that he could not even resist for a breath's time. The spear shattered, and he himself was sent flying back, vomiting blood. If a person blocked, he would kill; if a Buddha blocked, he would kill a Buddha. The oblivion-killing fist that was formed after the oblivion-killing realm was condensed to the extreme, and no one could block it. Before Yao Leshan's horrified expression could disperse, the protective stellar energy around his body was shattered by Chu Xiu. The fist passed through his body like tofu, and a mist of blood drifted in the air. Yao Leshan's chest was directly blasted by Chu Xiu's fist, and finally, he fell to the ground with lifeless eyes. Chu Xiu's right hand trembled slightly, and a piercing pain came. His killing intent had also been released along with his punch, but the backlash of the killing intent was not as heavy as before. Although the power of the sky-extinguishing earth-extinguishing oblivion-killing fist had been unleashed to the extreme by Chu Xiu, the power was relative, and the backlash he received was not light. It was no wonder that ordinary cultivators were unable to cultivate the sky-extinguishing earth-extinguishing oblivion-killing fist. They could not even use it. The backlash from this cultivation technique was indeed not small. In fact, among the few cultivation techniques, the sky-extinguishing earth-extinguishing oblivion-killing fist had the greatest backlash. Once he entered the state of oblivion of slaughter, his killing intent would be condensed to the limit. Then, Chu Xiu would have to release it and stop killing with killing. Otherwise, the killing intent he condensed would cause him to suffer a backlash. Chu Xiu looked at the spear-wielding martial artist and activated the internal binding seal. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived in front of the spear-wielding martial artist. The spear-wielding martial artist was horrified. His long spear had already been broken. At this moment, facing Chu Xiu, he blasted out a punch. Astral energy condensed on his arm. Although it was a punch, it was actually a spear intent. However, it was a pity that cowardice had already appeared in his heart. Those who used the spear as a weapon would definitely be unyielding and unparalleled in their attacks. However, at this moment, he was only thinking of temporarily blocking Chu Xiu and escaping for his life. From the moment he attacked, he had already lost. The great Vajra seal crashed down. The seal technique and the fist technique rotated, and with a loud explosion, the martial artist's arm was instantly twisted and broken. He could not help but let out a muffled groan, and a look of horror appeared in his eyes. Although he was not proficient in fist and leg techniques, he was still a martial artist at the 5 Qis gathering to the origin realm. But in terms of strength, he had been completely crushed by Chu Xiu. This martial artist was quite decisive. Seeing that he could not block Chu Xiu even if he attacked with all his strength, a trace of blood qi immediately appeared around his body. He was actually going to rely on burning his blood qi to desperately escape. Reputation was important, and so were benefits, but these things were not as important as his life. At this time, he could no longer care about Xiahou Wujiang's instructions. He only wanted to escape. But at this moment, Chu Xiu's eyes turned into a deep abyss. The soul-shifting technique of extinguishing heaven and extinguishing earth was displayed to the extreme, pulling his spirit into it and sinking him into the abyss. The soul-shifting technique of extinguishing heaven and extinguishing earth had a somewhat low impact on martial artists stronger than himself. But although this martial artist in front of him had a higher cultivation realm than Chu Xiu, he had already been scared out of his wits by Chu Xiu and was nothing to worry about. By the time he exhausted all his strength to break free from the soul-shifting technique of extinguishing heaven and extinguishing earth, what appeared in front of him was a boundless radiance. Perfect Aquarius seal. Bang! With a loud noise, the martial artist's body was directly blasted more than 100 feet away and fell into the crowd. His internal organs were directly smashed, and his body was already distorted beyond recognition. In the blink of an eye, 2 martial artists at the 5 Qis toward the origin realm had died in the hands of Chu Xiu. No one had seen the scene where Chu Xiu killed the 5 heroes of Jiangdong, but most of the martial artists had always thought that the 5 heroes of Jiangdong had died under Chu Xiu's crafty plots. After all, no one had seen the process of Chu Xiu risking his life to kill Chengbu Hui. But now, everyone believed that with Chu Xiu's strength, the weaker 5 Qis toward the origin realm martial artists simply had no power to fight back in front of him. Among the 5 heroes of Jiangdong, perhaps only Chengbu Hui had the strength to fight Chu Xiu. Even Dong Xiangyi and Lu Tong were not a match for Chu Xiu in a one-on-one battle. Chu Xiu turned his gaze to Lin Nani, who had a horrified look in his eyes, and grinned. The heavenly demon dance in his hand carried a blood-red devil chi saber aura, and directly rushed toward Lin Nani. Seeing that Chu Xiu was coming for him, Lin Nani's heart was already extremely frightened. Previously, he had told Xiahou Wujiang that if he was alone, he would absolutely dare to fight Chu Xiu and avenge the 5 heroes of Jiangdong. In fact, those were just words to save face, and Lin Nani was still afraid of death. In his early years, he was a rogue cultivator, and he fought and killed in the Jianghu to build such a big family business. His methods could be considered decisive and ruthless, and he had killed many people and also offended many. In his later years, his temperament changed greatly, and he began to become kind to others and help those in the Jianghu. This was not because he had truly repented, but because he realized that reputation was actually more useful than ruthless methods. The more people he befriended, the more connections he could obtain, and the more his enemies in the past dared not to touch him. Although he was now old, he had already reached the 5 Qis toward the origin realm, and he still had a few decades to live. Lin Nani was not willing to die here like this. Seeing that Chu Xiu was coming for him, Lin Nani directly chose to burn his qi and blood, bursting out with his strongest speed, and directly fled into the crowd. In fact, at the moment, everyone was already scared out of their wits by Chu Xiu. Among the leaders, Yao Leshan, who was the strongest, and the 5 Qis toward the origin realm martial artist with the spear were both dead, but Lin Nani only wanted to escape. Even the leaders were like this, let alone the others. Seeing that Lin Nani was running towards them, the other martial artists immediately dodged. Of course, there were also those who did not dodge in time and were directly killed by Chu Xiu's blade from behind. Even if they were in the 3-flower realm, they would be seriously injured even if they did not die. In an instant, there was a burst of ghostly wails and wolf howls from the crowd. The scene was simply chaotic. Wherever Chu Xiu went, there was a mist of blood flying, which was extremely shocking. Above the restaurant, Chana looked at the scene below and frowned. She lightly spat out 2 words, trash. What was originally a matter that was almost in the bag turned out to be such a mess because of Lin Nani and the others. These people were really trash. Even if this kind of trash took the initiative to come to the Xiahou clan, the Xiahou clan would not be interested. Although part of the reason was that Chu Xiu was too strong, to blame failure on the enemy was a true display of cowardice. Seeing that the hundreds of people below were being chased away by Chu Xiu, Chana could not help but shake her head. No matter how many people there were, they were still a motley crew. They could not achieve anything. This was also why most sects in the Jianghu relied on elites. It was said that the wind-sweeping tower had eyes all over the world, and there were hundreds of thousands of people. However, the wind-sweeping tower was still a peddler of information. The beggar sect was also known as the largest sect in the world, with more than 1 million members. You would never know which of the seemingly sloppy beggars on the street were real beggars and which were beggar sect disciples. In reality, if the beggar sect really relied on these beggars who could not eat their fill, it would have probably fallen apart a long time ago. The beggar sect really relied on the few elites in the main hall to support the few hundred people who gathered the strength of millions of members. In the past, the Kunlun devil cult actually only had a few thousand official disciples, but they were able to suppress the entire Jianghu with their demonic flames. This was already enough to explain everything. Mr. Feng, now that things have come to this, we still need to ask for your help. Originally, the young master did not want to ask for your help, but you also saw the scene before your eyes. Without your help, that group of trash will definitely lose. As soon as Chana finished speaking, a middle-aged man with a cold expression suddenly appeared behind Chana. He held a sword with both hands and said indifferently, "You know who I am. Now that I have to help, I reckon that I will not be able to work for the young master for a long time." Chana said, "It's fine. Just go, Mr. Feng. I will talk to the young master." Recently, the young master has been in seclusion. "Mr. Feng, you can also rest for a while." Mr. Feng nodded and said, "Since Miss Chana said so, then I will go." This Mr. Feng was Xiahou Wujiang's man, not someone from the Xiahou clan. He was an expert that Xiahou Wujiang had recruited with his own strength. This time, when they were fighting against Chu Xiu, the power of the Xiahou clan could not be used, and Xiahou Wujiang did not want to use his own power either. This was because the identity of this Mr. Feng was a bit sensitive. If he were to make a move, then he would have to live in seclusion for a long time and could not show his face again. Therefore, this time, Xiahou Wujiang did not intend to let him make a move. He had only sent Mr. Feng to protect Chana, just in case. However, the current situation was a bit off. Lin Nani and the others were too useless. Chana had also made her own decision to let Mr. Feng kill Chu Xiu. Anyway, Chana was Xiahou Wujiang's personal maid, and Mr. Feng was just a guest. There was no comparison between the two. Since Chana said that she would talk to Xiahou Wujiang after returning to the Xiahou clan, then Mr. Feng would just do as she said. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.